This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another day out here in the African wilderness. My name is Tristan. On camera I have got David this morning, and you can see we are doing a rolling start. And the reason why we're doing a rolling start is because we can smell wild dogs. Can you smell them, David? David can smell them too. And these wild dogs, I think, was obviously the same pack we had last night. It ended up, while we only started to see with the 6, you can actually see their tracks all over the road here. It actually ended up being 18 of them from the Hamilton's pack, and we can smell there they are, right there in the road. Woohoo, wild doggies! Yay! That's awesome. That didn't take long. So when you can smell them, you know that they're not far away. The problem is we're not going to have them for much longer because we literally are right on the northern boundary and they're heading north. So they're heading the wrong way. Naughty wild dogs. Turn west. Turn west or east or something like that. But what an epic way to start. Now, of course, we have wild dogs, which means you need to all start asking lots of wild dog questions, and you can do that using hashtag SafariLive or at FC on the YouTube chat stream. Remember to keep it relevant and what you're seeing on the screen, and then we will endeavor to answer all of your questions that you may have that are relevant to what we are seeing. But how exciting to see 18 wild dogs, because look, there they all are in the road. So you saw just a few of them. There's some that are going that way, but most of them are milling about right in front of us. Isn't that a welcome sight to see? There's lots of them all over the place. Now, Jackie, you say what a start. Yes, well, we're very lucky. I didn't think we would actually get the doggies this morning, and I'll tell you why. Because yesterday, obviously, they ate an impala, and they actually ended up eating 2 of them, and then they lay up on Gallego shortcut. And the thing is about it is that while they were full, it was a very, very clear night last night, and I thought, well, they might move a little bit, given that they had kind of eaten. But obviously what happened is they must have just spent the night sleeping off that meal, and now they're on the trot and are moving. But how cool is this to see that many dogs in one frame? It's always nice when you get large packs. Very, very cool to see. Now, this last denning season, this particular pack had 13 puppies. How many of those are still alive, I'm not sure. You can see they're very playful this morning, which is exactly what I thought. But the good news is that they're going westwards along the cut line. So that's really, really good for us, because normally what happens is on the fire break, there's lots of impalas, particularly towards where Sydney's dam is. And so if these guys run that way, maybe, just maybe, we'll see them on a morning hunt, which will be epic. Kayla, they have a very pungent smell. What they smell like is really tricky to describe the smell. I don't think there's really many other smells out there like this. It's a kind of a I don't know, it's almost, I don't know how I would describe it. It's almost got like a kind of moldy smell to it in some respects. It's just wild dog, that's what it smells like. And very, very cool to see. Now that some of these are going to drink on our right hand side. I love the way wild dogs drink. It's all just kind of shovel down as much water as one can possibly get down as quick as possible. They kind of just gulp it down. And sometimes you'll find if they've been running, they'll actually go and lie in the water and kind of roll around in it, much like hyenas would. But how cool to see these guys to start our morning. I think it's a wonderful way to start the day. Hopefully, we're going to get a lot of entertainment out of them. Unfortunately, you can see we're right on the boundary. So that where they're walking now is actually on Buffels Hook. So that goes into Buffels Hook there, which is not ideal. We were hoping that we would kind of get them going more into Djuma, but doesn't matter. Still at least got a glimpse of them. Right. Off they go, trotting. It's been a good wild dog period. I mean, we had wild dogs in the Mara yesterday morning, wild dogs on Djuma yesterday afternoon, wild dogs again this morning. So we've had a good stint. And isn't that cool? Look in front of us. It's just little kind of blotchy bottoms and white tails spread across the road. And this is why wild dogs are always so nice, is because, you know, when you come around corners, they like to use roads a lot, and you often find them kind of walking along like this, and it's such a nice sight, especially if you come over the rise and they're facing you and all you see are these big round Mickey Mouse ears. Then it's very, very cool to see. Awesome. You can see some right in the distance there that are trotting along. Those are the ones that are heading off towards Sydney's dam area. And like I said, it's a good place because often a lot of impalas around that section where they could potentially kind of start chasing. The problem is obviously if they go northwards, we're not going to catch up with them. And also if they go further west from there, it's quite quick until they're in Simambili. So Jared's buddy, the pups are in amongst them. So they had pups early in the season. They've just grown a lot. So there's a lot of young dogs within them. But the pups are running with the pack. They are not at a termite mound or are waiting for the dogs. They are within the pack itself. You'll see a few very young dogs within there that are slightly smaller than the adults, but not by much anymore. So these little ones are they must be about 9 months old now. So they're already quite big, and that's why it's quite difficult to discern the puppies from the adults within this particular pack at the moment. Right, what I think we're going to try to do is try to get in front of them a little bit and then watch them kind of run down the road towards us, particularly because there's going to be a sun that's going to rise behind them fairly shortly. And while we kind of get that right, let's send you up to David, my friend in the Mara, so you can say good morning.
And Jumbo from the Mara Triangle in Kenya, and it's another lovely morning that we are starting here, with some very good temperatures of 17 degrees Celsius and 62 degrees Fahrenheit as usual. Because that cold, I have my extra sugar on, and my name is David as usual, and in me on camera today is Archie. Bonjour monsieur. And Archie says another good day, and all of us are excited to have you on board. Now, very quickly walking you back to yesterday. We saw black rhino. I'm trying to get the highlights from yesterday, and we have established of the Oloro pride that lives around here. There are 2 mothers with that tiny babies. But having said that, I want to go back to my favorite pride, the sausage tree pride, and see how they're doing, because we've got 2 mothers there that we're expecting. Also, they could be joining the 2 mothers around here with 2 cubs, and one of those mothers is Kingtail. Well, I just have now to move on and see whether I can catch up with them. Of course, as my friend said before, remember, questions, answers we'll get, and should you have any comments rather, you can send them through #SafariLive on Twitter. Alright, it looks dark, I'm sure you can tell, because it's about shortly after 6 o'clock. And we're always 1 hour ahead of South Africa. That's why you see all these lights around me. I am not in a studio. And from all of you back, I'm giving you a very big jumbo. And all my friends, the final control in South Africa. Well, the news of Kingtail either having cubs and the other female, it should be any time now. One female has gone missing now 5 days. And to me, 5 days translates to babies. Maybe yes. Maybe no. Time will tell. But as soon as we get to know, we'll let you know also. So the whole idea is to get there. So we might end up with 4 mothers that we know of, or 2 prides of lions that we follow, that will have new cubs on the new year. All right. I spoke of also another highlight yesterday, having seen a black rhino, which was very encouraging. So let's see what else we're gonna get. And my big mission today, or my big plan this morning, is to get to the Sausage Republic. But of course, I've always said, between here and there's a lot that happens. Ellies, buffaloes. There's a day I saw a puff down the way. It could be anything on this road. No rains, so far so good. It's green enough, so if maybe Mother Nature can give us a little bit of a break, that's fine. But of course, if rains come, they will come. So again, remember, questions, comments, send them through. We love to hear from you. #SafariLive on Twitter. All right. So until maybe we get better light, anything we'll see now, we are only going to use our special infrared camera because it's still rather dark. And having said that, I may have to use now my spotlight, as usual, to keep spotting left or right. Because you never know what our spotlight might pick. We might pick some glaring eyes of a savocat or maybe an aardvark, who knows. So I am staying in a 4-wheel drive, and the gentleman with the largest smile in Africa is trucking, and I'm sure you want to hear what he is planning for you today.
A very warm welcome here where I am, done by the insects. These are the termites. I can see at the moment they are very much busy showing off. And a very, very good morning, and most of all, welcome to the beginning of our guided walk. This is Sydney from Mikosi, and I'm traveling with Senzo, who is my camera operator this morning, as well as Rex, my game scout. I'm going to be looking for the tiny little insects. If we come across the big animals, you must consider it a bonus. For in case if you would like to have my attention, you can send your questions and comments on Twitter, #SafariLive. You can also follow us on YouTube chat stream. So here I am just looking. I just want to see what these insects are doing. But come have a look here. You can see some of them are banging the ground. When they are banging the ground, it means they are communicating. It's a sign of emergency that, hey, be careful, there's something here. These kind of insects can be able to pick up our vibration when we are walking on the ground and inform everybody. You can see here that some of them are doing that, and they are going everywhere. These ones, like I'm pointing, who are doing the banging, they are different from the ones that are walking inside. You see, these ones who are coming here, they've got small round head and they don't have mandibles. So the ones who are on top here banging are the soldiers. And these soldiers are banging, informing these workers who are coming back now that there is danger. Leave the job, leave construction, come back. I am doing something. Oh, there's one. Here's a big one. Come and see Senzo. Here, you see, there's a big one. There's a big soldier here. Maybe this is the general. You will never know. Maybe this is the, you see there. Can you see it?
Not yet.
Maybe this is the general. Look at that. Look at that. This is the big soldier. So this kind of soldiers, the big ones, they are responsible in order to defend the colony. The small ones like these are responsible to control the traffic. That's why you can see they are on the road. So the big ones, this big one is now coming here. There's another big one here, Senso. Can you see that? Yeah, there's another big one here. You can see now it's going in there. Thank you very, very much, Mark. Look at what is happening. You see what is happening now? They are now banging the ground again. So the big one, you see those ones who are banging there. So they are banging there. They are calling them fast, fast, make it fast. Come back, come back. We'll come back again and do this. Minamu, that is quite a very interesting question. And I'm going to link a question with the following. Senzo, come this side. There's something I saw here. And then Minamu, I must have to explain to her while seeing this so that she can understand. There's something I saw here earlier on when I was entering. See, somewhere here. Somewhere here. Come and see, Senzo here. If you look in there, Minamu, there is a wing right in there. This wing, I'm going to take it out because it is not attached to anything anymore. This is a wing I'm talking about. So this is a wing I'm talking about. Look at that. So this wing is coming from the flying ant. This is the reproductive termite. These reproductive termites, they leave the colony. And after leaving the colony, they fly. After that, this is what they are going to do. They are going to come here on the ground. They are going to come on the ground here and leave a pheromone where they are going to walk. They will fly a couple of meters, 100 meters or less, and then they land on the ground. Then they shade these wings. After that, they will leave the center on the trail, and the male will then pick it up and start following. After they propose each other and agree upon a marriage, they will have to dig. Here where I got this, it means it's where it has been dug. And a lot of areas where I am has got quite a lot of holes because those, here you can see there's a hole and there's a hole there. There's holes everywhere because these males and females, after they agreed upon a marriage, they have to find a hole and drill it and stay under the ground, mate, and after that they are going to lay eggs. The termites that you see leaving the termite mound flying, if they are successful from predators, is then that one of them is going to become a king and another one is going to become a queen. Those two are always the founders of every termite mound. The ones who are in there, they are the youngest because the two are the oldest as is the first ones who arrived to establish the very big termite mound. So you can see those two, it's when they are going to get inaugurated. One of them is the queen, another one is the king. This thing of kingship by the termites, that is how it starts. I will carry on again with the termites soon as we come across a big house and extend so that you can understand more. For now, let's quickly cross over to my other friends.
Well, good luck finding a big mound to carry on your termite explanation. I'm sure you won't have to go too far, Sydney, to find one of those. But unfortunately for us, our dogs have run north into Buffelshoek, and they were coming kind of towards... there we go. That's good news. I was just about to say they were coming towards Sydney's Dam, so I've just parked at Sydney's Dam and then clearing around the dam in the hope that they would show up. And that's good news. So well done, David, for finding them. Hopefully they're going to kind of pop out into the open here and we'll get all kind of 18. They did flush a scrub hare and some impalas that they half-heartedly looked like they kind of went after. It doesn't seem that they actually got anything because none of them are too excitable about what's going on. And so I would imagine that they did miss. Unfortunately, though, there's no impalas at Sydney's Dam. I was hoping in this clearing, which is a place where we often see a lot of impalas, that there would be some and they would then kind of rush them out and we might see them chasing. The one good thing that is here is that there was 2 hyenas that were milling about. Now, one of the most epic things to see is hyenas and wild dogs. They give each other a very hard time and it can get quite entertaining to watch the 2 of them because the dogs run around like hooligans. The hyenas tuck their bottoms up to make sure that their vital organs are not bitten, and it becomes this kind of game of numbers, and whoever's got more numbers tends to win the encounter. But this is going to be so cool. We're going to just start to see them emerging out, and one by one there's going to be these dogs that are going to appear. So this is the first 3 that we can see. Obviously there's still 15 more to come, which is a lot of wild dogs, and where they actually the rest are is obviously debatable. It's tricky to know exactly where they all are, especially when they chase things. They tend to head up or fracture out a little bit and go into all these different kind of groups, which is always a little bit tricky. But anyway, it's nice to see them. Yesterday was a frustrating afternoon, to be honest, and so good that we could start our morning with a decent view of them, and that they have been obliging enough to now sit still for us a little bit in this clearing, and hopefully, like I say, the rest of the pack will all start to move in this direction and be able to kind of come out into the open, and we'll see all of them. The problem is that the way that they're facing and the way that the topography works here, we're not going to be able to follow them any further than where we are now, because it goes into Manyeleti and Samambili right in this corner, so it's going to be a bit tricky. Child of the Universe, how long does it take for them to reach adult size? Well, I mean, they grow pretty quickly, so they'll appear to be almost the same size as the adults within their first year. In terms of being sexually reproductive and being a full-grown adult and deemed an adult, that normally is only when they reach sort of 2.5 to 3 years is when they're actually kind of really contributing to the better the growth of the population. The thing is with wild dogs, though, and unfortunately in the Kruger system, the average lifespan for wild dogs is actually only about 3.5 years. They unfortunately have a lot of different predators out here, and many of them get killed. Now there's a hyena calling. I wonder if it's going to call again. Can you hear it? It's very faint, but it's coming from just behind Sydney's Dam, and now you can see the dogs are starting to trot and head northwards. The rest of the pack is just through the thickets there. I was hoping that they would all start to come out, but you can see 1 or 2 of them now starting to kind of emerge from behind those thickets. It would be really nice if they run onto this open clearing and we can kind of see all the pack together, but I think what it looks like is that they're going to head back into the Manyeleti and go and kind of hunt around there. Now, the name Hamilton's comes from a camp that is on the eastern side of where we are, inside the Kruger National Park. It's a tented camp that lies pretty much in line with Nkoro. That's roughly, just to give you an idea where it is. It's not very far from Nkoro, actually. And that pack has kind of been hanging around there, and it's why Grant, who researches the wild dogs, has given them that kind of name. They extensively are basically a break-off from what was the old Manyeleti pack, which used to roam around this area quite a long time ago. That pack was about 30 dogs in around 2011, 2012. And they then split out, and this is one of the sort of breakaway sections of that pack. So it's a pack that has been around this area for quite some time and has spent a lot of time kind of running around. They used to come in a lot from obviously the eastern boundary, and used to find them a lot on Nkoro's kind of open section, and then they would run around and they would kind of go from there. They would then shoot off towards they'd go sort of towards Hofmann's, and then they would come up through Djuma and then back that way again. Actually, I can see the two hyenas. Can you see them there? They look like hyenas, or are they just impalas? What are they? I can't see. There's two animals that are moving kind of where the dogs are facing at the moment. So what are those? Oh, they're birds. They're Egyptian geese. Okay. Giraffe Girl, I mean, these guys, a pack of 18, could bring down fairly substantial sized animals. So wildebeest, but not fully grown males, like yearling wildebeest would possibly be up there. Kudu, fairly large kudu, nyala females. Those are probably the biggest sort of animals that they'd bring down. Interestingly enough, there's a pack actually currently in Botswana, in the Moremi Game Reserve. Oh, there's something moving there. Let's see if I'm hoping that they're going to flush something and chase it southwards. In Moremi, and that pack is a big pack. It's over 30 animals, and they have taken to hunting buffalo, funnily enough, and they are bringing down quite large buffalo en masse in the Moremi at the moment, which is absolutely unbelievable. To see wild dogs going after buffalo is a very special thing. So, you know, it's quite crazy that once they get into big groups, anything's really possible for them, and whatever opportunity they can get or whatever's around is what they'll take in order to be able to kind of feed themselves. But this pack, I mean, in this particular reserve, they are targeting 90% is going to be impalas, especially the lambs at the moment. They'll be going after duiker, they'll be going after scrub hares, baby wildebeest that are around at the moment. And it would have been quite something if they had gone into quarantine and the wildebeest had been around. It would have been really quite epic, because there often is these huge fights that take place between wildebeest and wild dogs at this time of the year, particularly because of those babies. And I actually had a sighting once of the Sands pack on Elephant Plains, where they tried to go after a herd of wildebeest, and they kind of surrounded the wildebeest, and the wildebeest got into this tight ball with the babies in the middle, and I think it was about 12 adults. I can't remember exactly how many wildebeest there were, but anyway, the dogs kept coming in and trying and kind of nipping at where the wildebeest were. And the one dog kind of overcommitted, and this bull wildebeest hit him and picked this dog up and threw it into a bush. Luckily the dog survived, it was fine and didn't get hurt, but it just goes to show you how aggressive a wildebeest will be towards a wild dog to try and protect its grouping and to protect its offspring. And so this bull just kind of went crazy and ended up smashing this wild dog, which was crazy. Ooh, child of the universe, a leopard would not want these guys around at all. These dogs, given that there's 18 of them, if they see a leopard, they'll let out this kind of bark that comes out. They make a funny sound when they see a predator, and the whole pack will come running in, and they'll chase that leopard as much as they can, and they normally chase them up into trees, obviously, because leopards know that a wild dog is not really going to be able to keep up with them. And be able to kind of go up into a tree. So they will go up into a tree, and then the dogs will sit at the bottom and just go crazy, and lots of noise and excitement. And then obviously the leopard just waits it out. The dogs eventually get bored and they move off, and that's the end of that. But the thing is that what you will find is that if there's puppies around, leopards can be dangerous, and there's been a number of puppies that get taken by a leopard, particularly when they get chased up a tree and then the puppies get kind of left behind a little bit. Then they come down and grab them, and can often be quite a lot of interaction. But there has also been vice versa, leopards being killed by wild dogs too. Unfortunately though, they most of the pack seems to have run into the thickets. We can't really move because of signal issues where we are, and so I'm going to leave it here, and we're going to carry on. I'm going to probably go and see what Thandi and Tlalamba have been up to. But how epic was that to start our day? Now let's send you back up to David and Kenya.
Tristan, because I have always called Tristan the Leopard Whisperer, but I think he is doing very well from last night. And this morning, having spotted, I would say, wild dogs 2 times. That is quite encouraging. Now, Yesterday morning also, I think I had an amazing experience of wild dogs. I'll bet not as many as what Tristan has. I had 3, and that was a very special sighting for us here in the Mara. I mean, we got wild dogs here, but it's rather difficult for us to see them. The game reserve is huge. It's massive. I mean, you're talking over 1,500 square kilometers. So just to know exactly where they are and to have as many guides, you know, in those particular places is difficult. But for us, I would say for this new year, everybody in the Mara thought we had a very good beginning. And apparently they were eating an impala, they were eating a male impala. And watching them eating, for those of you who have seen wild dogs eating, they're very unique in how they eat, because they'll always stalk very quickly. And when they stalk like jokers. They don't look like they're serious. And as soon as they get their prey, they're a bit, I would say, crude, a bit rough, because they tend to eat their prey almost before it dies. So watching that impala yesterday morning, they were just tearing it, you know, before it died. And unlike lions or leopards or cheetahs that will settle down and comfortably eat, have a bit of table manners, those 2 wild dogs yesterday, or 3, were just pulling each side for a piece of meat. And as most predators that we know of do not have chewing teeth, they're just shearing, cutting pieces and swallowing. Firefly asked what's area, Luke. Mr. Christian is just between it there. Does what? As I keep going, looking for my sausage. Baby Firefly, you're asking about colouring of dogs here, and if that's your question, in the Mara they have not been able to do that as maybe they have done in South Africa. So not much research has been done on colouring the dogs here, because they are rarely seen. They have not been seen as, I would say, they have been in, let me just put some camera there, that is too far, as they have been followed in South Africa. So here they have not coloured them a lot as in South Africa or other parts of Africa like Zimbabwe. So we are yet to get that level. What we've been following closely here, I would say Firefly in Africa, elephants, I'm sure you know a place called Amboseli. There's a project there. There's a code led by a lady called Cynthia Moss. And of course here in the Mara we have been following the hyenas very closely with some researchers from Michigan State University. And I'm sure Firefly, you know, of the Wafos, which got a collar. So we are yet to get to the level of following wild dogs to research point of view, maybe in the future. But apart from the 3 I saw yesterday, the other pack was seen, I would say, a couple of months ago, and that would make it very difficult for the researchers to do a bit of research. Well, I'll keep heading to my destination of the sausage trip, right? Let's go back to the wild dogs with my friend Tristan.
Well, good luck, David. I'm sure down in the south the sausage tree pride will be there somewhere for you. Hopefully they'll be hunting buffalo, as they sometimes do. So we were going to leave, but then most of the pack started to come out in this beautiful golden kind of sunshine. And it is a very long distance visual, but it's a funny visual to watch, because these poor lapwings are dive bombing these dogs left, right and centre, and they're kind of having a bit of a tough time dealing with the lapwings. But it's beautiful kind of orange lights that is just shining on them at the moment, and they don't seem as though they are in much of a hurry at this stage. They're kind of just watching what's going on, whereas though, as I say that now, they're all starting to trot off. But they're kind of milling about and up and down and looking around, and don't seem as though they're too sure as to actually where they want to go. There's lots of listening and lots of looking, but there's not really too much intent in their movement at this stage, although I can see a lot of them kind of peeling off to the right and kind of moving off through there. So there goes most of the pack now. It looks like they actually have decided it's time to start moving. Yep, there we go. So they are probably going to disappear in the next few minutes. Bill, estimated number of wild dogs throughout Africa is about 3,000 to 3,500 wild dogs that are in wild populations. It's not including the zoos, but yeah, so not very many. If we're honest, it's a very, very small population of animals, and if you consider how big Africa is, it's not very many left, and that's why they're considered so special and so endangered to see. But that's it, unfortunately. They've now disappeared completely into the tree line. We're not going to see them. I don't think they're going to head more north into Buffelshoek Manyeleti area, so we're going to leave them there. Hopefully our signal will survive me turning around and heading off in a nice easterly direction. Sometimes a bit dodgy here at Sydney's Dam is the signal. Hoping today is going to behave itself. Also, we're going to get blinded, David, going eastwards. Right. Now, we're going to head off eastwards. We're going to go see what Tanya and Kalamba have been up to. In the meantime, back to Sydney on Bushwalk.
I have got something here, Senzo, and this is one of those plants with a very interesting leaf shape. Here, I just want to show you the resemblance of another animal from these leaves. If you look at this leaf, this one, just think about all these different kinds of insects and arachnids. If you look at this, I'm just going to take this leaf here so that you can understand. Sorry, my plant, sorry. Yeah, this is just one leaf. So let's take this leaf now, and from here we are going to take just this one. Can you see that the shape of this leaf, this is a leaflet, the shape of this leaflet when I'm holding it here is like a tick. Look at the shape, it's much more round, and it even got the probe there. This looks like a tick. So this is what is called a round leaf tick, because of the resemblance of these leaves, which is more like a tick. So by this time of the year, here in the bush, we are going to be seeing quite a lot of ticks, from the small pepper ticks to the big ones. So now this morning I haven't picked up any of the ticks, but I saw a lot of ticks here a few days and last week as well. But now maybe because of the rain, that is why we are not seeing them today. So if you look here, I've got this is the only tick I've got so far. We are safe because this one is not going to absorb anything from us. As we do see the grass snakes here in Juma a lot, and also last week I saw a grass snake somewhere much more that side, and this grass snake was chasing a lizard. I don't know what was the issue. The other day I saw a snake as well swallowing a lizard. I found this snake going fast, holding a lizard like this. And then shortly after that, the snake just went to the corner and started absorbing that lizard. And the snake took it just like this, started growing. And I could see also when it's inside, the snake was doing like this in order to accommodate that lizard to go back. And I could see the lizard was going back in the stomach every time until it went back. Sometimes when the snakes are eating like that, if you disturb them, they can vomit and go away for their own safety. Quite a lot of holes here. These holes has been dug by something, Senzo. If you check here, there's some tracks. It's just that they are not clear. There's some bad tracks. So you can see that the hornbills, because of their beak, just think about their beak. The beak of the hornbills is the one who created this, because they will be digging like this. So they will be digging. The hornbills will be digging here in order to look for this. They are going to do like this. And you know this is how they dig. And when they are digging there with that very long mouth parts, that is when they get where these termites are hiding. Lots of holes here because the hornbills are digging in order to get those flying ants who are hiding under the ground. Paula, thank you very much for such an encouraging comment. So we have to love these animals from the tiny little stuff until we animals. There's quite a lot of connectivity. Big animals are just beneficiaries. Who is doing quite a lot of work here for the big survival of the big ones is the tiny little stuff. But now, let's cross over to Tristan and see how he's doing.
Look what we have. Hello, Tingy. How are you, boy? You're looking fantastic. Now, this morning has been ridiculous in that we have done very little in the way of actually looking. We were just driving down the road after leaving the wild dogs, and there in the middle of the road was Tingana just standing in all his glory. Funnily enough, we actually thought it was a lion at first. He was kind of standing in a way that it looked very lionish, and both of us were, well, David and I were thinking, no, it's a lion, and then we were like, no, it's a zebra, no, it's a lion, and it actually was Tingana, which is very exciting. So can't have asked for a better start to our day. I know we were going to go look for Tandi and Tlalamba, but well, Tingy has said, I will not be outdone by those two or dogs. Arbeard, you say this is all just so fantastic. I agree, Arbeard. I've been very easy this morning, which is nice. It's sometimes nice to have an easy day at the office. It's can sometimes, you know, after days like yesterday where we drove around in circles for a good 2.5 hours as we looked for wild dogs. I mean, we eventually did get them, but it was, you know, a very brief sighting towards the end of drive. It's sometimes is really nice just to be able to kind of come out and, you know, really just kind of bump animals everywhere. And then, like I said, I use the word bump because there's in no way been any skill involved in finding Tingana. The dogs, I'll take a bit of credit in that we knew where they were yesterday and we kind of tracked them up the road a little bit, but it didn't take much effort. Whereas, you know, Tingy was just a complete random kind of story. But anyway, he's walking his normal route. He loves this road. He often walks this way. And I don't know if any of you remember him being chased by the Nkuhuma Pride a few months ago. This is that exact spot where he was chased by the Nkuhumas, and he went up this big jackalberry that we're going to see shortly for safety. And so he loves this particular road. He walks it quite regularly, and then he'll go down, and he normally cuts through towards Gallego Pan. This is his route now that he's going to take back towards Gallego Pan. So he's done a huge territorial patrol. Remember, we had his tracks yesterday morning on Bushwalk going up Nyala Road North. He went into Buffelshoek, quite far east, in fact. He went all the way towards a place called Cheetah Pan. Now, Cheetah Pan is, I would say, kind of halfway between the KNP boundary and Cheetah Cutline. And so very far east. In fact, that's normally where quarantine is seen. So he went that way, and then he did a big loop around, and he's now coming out of Buffelshoek back into Djuma, which is fantastic news. So it's nice to have him back, and he'll probably spend the morning patrolling around, and then he'll find a spot to lie down. I think he's going to lie down quite early this morning because that sun has just risen, and it already has some venom in it. It's going to be quite a warm day, that is for sure, and so I would expect him to find a nice shady spot, lie down and have a bit of a break. But he's looking around quite intently. I think maybe still quite hungry, although it seems like he must have had some semblance of a meal since we last saw him when he was with Tandi the other day, because his belly, while it is not full, it is not hugely sucked in either. So I would imagine that he has had at least something to eat. But isn't that a nice welcome surprise for the morning? I think so. I think we're being very spoilt this morning. Hopefully you're all enjoying it as well. So, Child of the Universe, it's a tricky one to kind of answer, and I'll tell you why. It's because there seems to be a few females within the area that potentially Tingana is in, or can walk around in, and he hasn't really kind of gotten to them. So Shadulu is kind of one of them. She comes onto Djuma and overlaps with where his territory is, but for some reason they haven't kind of really come together. So in terms of how many females, I mean, we can, if we include the outliers, then we're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You're looking at probably 6 or 7 of them. If you include the Buffelshoek females, Kuchava, Inkanyeni, and then obviously Tandi, Tlalamba, Shadulu, So yeah, about 6 at this stage. The thing is that he hasn't really spent much time to the south where Kuchava's been hanging around, so in all likelihood those cubs that she's got at the moment, which apparently she does have, and I actually have, which will bring me to my next point shortly, but she's got cubs down there, and so he hasn't spent much time there, so I don't think he fathered those cubs, and so, you know, whether or not she counts, I don't know, but she's on the fringes of his territory, so I suppose we can give it to him. But what I was going to say, talking about cubs, is that I actually got first-hand confirmation from somebody yesterday that Shadulu's cubs have been seen once, and she has 2 little cubs by all accounts. They saw only 2. There might be another one, but they definitely saw 2 of them, and they are in a area to the east of Simambili Dam, so they're quite far from where we are. But what the guys are saying is that her general movement seems to be coming more and more east towards Djuma, so I wouldn't be surprised if at some point she kind of pops over, and it would be really nice, imagine, to see Shadulu's little cubbies, but 2 of them, which is excellent news. Very, very cool to see, especially if that's her first litter. Often they only have 1 in their first litter, so to have 2 is quite something, which is very, very nice. My pleasure, Luke. So Luke says apparently all of you are going crazy on the chat and lots of kind of talking, and Luke says thank you. So no problem, Luke. I'd like to keep you guys busy in FC, so lots of chat is always a good thing. Puma, they are indeed Hookadulus. They are going to be, well, one is going to be Hookadulu and the other one is going to be Shamuri, and that's going to be the names of the 2. No, I'm joking. It's not going to be the names of them, but I think it would be quite funny. Luke says he likes Shamuri better, but I think it would be great if we have Hookadulu and Shamuri. That would be the best names for them. I think it would be hilarious, because it'll be basically chicken mount and termite medicine is basically what we're going to be calling them, which is absolutely hilarious if you ask me. So there we go. So there's Tingy, kind of looking around. I'm hoping he's going to use a termite mound at some point in this beautiful morning light. I mean, there's a termite mound right there that he was kind of eyeing out, but it seems like he's a little bit to the sort of left of it. But he really looks in great condition. And like I say, the other day when I saw him, if you compare what he looks like now to a year ago, it's absolutely incredible that an older male like this has been able to recover and gain that kind of body condition that he lost during that period. I mean, he was looking very sickly. I was actually, funny enough, going through photos yesterday, and I came across the photos from last year this time of him, and he really did not look good at all. He was skinny and looked very frail, and now you see him and him scent marking and kind of moving around, and you realize just how kind of far he's come back, and that he's still a big kind of force to be reckoned with. The other thing is, you can see as he kind of walked off there, is that he's not even, I would say, what do you reckon, David? 30 meters, 20 meters? 20 meters, and he just disappears like this. So spotting a leopard now, I mean, if we had come along that road now, we would never have even known he was here. I was actually looking on the road. His tracks were almost invisible. We would have had to have a really keen eye to have seen those, and the light would have had to been right. Now, nothing like a spider web to the face to start the morning. It's that time of the year again where we're going to get spider webs on the lens and all those kind of things. Good. We're going to try and keep following Tingana through this. It gets a bit hairy in places, and so while we do that, let's send you back across to David in the Mara and see how he's getting on with his sausage search.
Coco. Ndopi? Meniangusha. Topis chowe.
Right, now, unfortunately, it sounds like David's got a few little gremlin issues that he's busy sorting out, and so we're back with us, which is, well, hopefully you're all right with that. I don't suppose many of you would be too upset about following Tingana around for the morning. Well, I hope not anyway. I know sometimes there's some of you that get a bit tired of seeing our leopards, but unfortunately, you're not going to win with me. This is what I'll be spending 99% of my days looking for, is these guys. And so if I'm around, I'm afraid you're going to get a lot of leopard talk, and hopefully a lot of them on the screen. It sometimes doesn't go according to plan. And Hassan is actually going to be in my bad books by the end of today, because if I don't find him by the end of today, that means that it'll be 3-4 full days without seeing him, and that's not acceptable from the young man. So we're going to have a stern chat to him when I see him next. Hopefully he is around. Maybe we'll even get him with Tingana this morning. That would make my day, is if we had him and he was around. So I'm hoping the two little father-son reunion, come on, that would be quite nice, wouldn't it? I think so. Tingy, how far are you? You're not very far, so I'm not going to be able to go through, but there we go. He seems as though he's intent on trying to find something to eat. He's definitely looking for something. He's kind of got his ears up and his tail is twitching, and I'm sure he's still quite hungry. So the best thing that he could come across would be warthogs. That would probably make him the happiest, and so I'm hoping that he will come across something like that, and we'll see him get a meal. Good. We're going to carry on. We'll see where he ends up, and while we do that, let's see where Sydney has ended up and what he's up to.
You can see the sand there is representing the beach, and you can see the plants growing there. They look like more beach trees. These are the mushrooms. Very beautiful mushrooms has grown here. You can see, look at this one. Look at the top of this one, Senzo. Right here on top, it looks very much beautiful. This is so cute. So these are the mushrooms. Mushrooms also serve as food a lot. When we grow up after rains, they used to grow a lot on top of the termite mounds. And there's certain types of these mushrooms that we eat. Some of them, we believe they are poisonous. So there are those that we're not allowed to eat traditionally because they are associated with... Oh, this animal's running here. I've got to react quickly. Something is happening somewhere here. We must be having a predator here after something. Yeah, so we just want to quickly now see what is happening. Something is happening here. I can even see some of the buffalo tracks here where we are. Also the smell. I can smell that there are buffaloes here. So here, things are happening. So the animals were just running somewhere here now, and we could hear that something is happening. It's quiet now. So I must have to move forward a little bit and check and see if we... You can even hear the alarm calls now from these birds. There's a very nice opening here. Maybe we are going to be able to see what's happening there. Maybe that animal won, but we did not hear any distress call. But we could hear that this predator is chasing something, or animals are running away from something. That was not a play. It was not a fight. These animals were going too fast. So it's somewhere here by this opening. We have to be very, very careful. But I'm coming down here according to the instruction of my game scout. You can hear him, you can't hear him giving me instructions, but he is somewhere here giving me instructions. So I cannot see exactly what is happening. So what we are going to do now is we are going to try and find out who is chasing who here where I am. So now let's cross over to Tingana and see how Tingana is doing.
Before we just go, David, can you just show something on the termite mound itself? There's a beautiful butterfly that is sitting there called a citrus swallowtail that is busy drying its wings. Now, I know there's a leopard, but we don't get to see our butterflies all that much. And it's nice to start seeing them kind of coming back. I've seen a few African vagrants, but there's a beautiful citrus swallowtail, and that butterfly is about the size of my palm. For those of you that want to know rough size. As much as I'd like to dwell on the butterfly, though, Tingana's leaving me behind, and in this block, unfortunately, if we let him go too far, I'm not going to find him very easily. But he was posing beautifully on this mound for 2 seconds, as he does, and then off he went. He's kind of unfortunately bumped into some kudu that shouted at him, and unfortunately for us, he's crossed over a road where it's going to be exceedingly difficult to follow him much further. He's going to cross through a little drainage line now that is very tricky to get through. I mean, I know one spot that we can go depending on how he kind of angles here, but it's not going to be easy at all, I don't think. Well, we'll try. Let's see how we go here. Maybe we can get this right. He's heading in a roughly a sort of easy-ish direction for us to be able to kind of get through, but it's going to be very, very tricky to follow him through here. It really is the place that I was hoping he wasn't going to go. I was hoping he was either going to go much further to our east or much further to our west, but the way that he's walking, it should be very interesting. But anyway, what have you seen, Tingy? You've spotted something. Your ears are very alert, and you see that tail twitching. The leopard's tail never lies. It always finds when it finds something, it starts to just move and twitch like that. And quite cool when you see him walking. Do you see how he's got a massively long whisker on his right side that hangs down? It's quite funny, actually. It's only on one side of his face. There's on this right side, there's this long whisker that kind of comes down, and it looks very funny. He almost looks like a little bit like, what's those David? But the kind of Chinese, no, the long one that hangs down, one of those. Tingy, really? Of all the places you could have gone. Fu Manchu, is that it? Something like that? Something like that. Oh, this is going to be very tricky. Getting through here is really not easy at all. He's going straight to Gallagher Pan. That's exactly where he's heading. We said that he would go that way, but I was hoping if he had gone a little bit more to our eastern side, there's a really nice kind of 2-track that runs all the way through that makes it very simple to follow him. And on our western side is where the dogs were on Gallagher shortcut itself. So it would have been really kind of quite easy to follow on both those sides, but he's chosen the most difficult route now, straight through the middle of this, which is really not going to be very easy to follow. Octa, you say Fu Manchu is indeed correct. Yes, 5 points for the win. And David, David and Luke, I've educated you this morning, haven't I? You guys now know what those are. Do you know what they are, David? Do you know those kind of long... it's a pleasure, Luke. Luke says much appreciated. My pleasure. No, don't. Seriously, Tingana? Okay. This is not going to be very easy at all. I don't think we're going to be able to stay with him for much longer, I'm afraid. If he carries on walking the way he is, we're going to have a problem. Better route, so we're all good for now. But in the meantime, while I just negotiate this small little drainage, let's send you back across.
Here I'm standing under the tree, which is popular known as the jacket plum. So the jacket plum is one of those trees that can be very much interesting, because the following: I'm not just standing under a plain tree, I'm standing under a medicinal tree. So I'm standing right in front of the medicine, in front or at the medicine, as it is difficult to tell which side is the front, which side is the back side, because that is determined by my approach direction. So because I came from this side, it means this is in front. But if I'm from the other, this is the back side. So the jagged plum, this is what you must do. The jagged plum, you come and take these leaves. And look at this beautiful. You come and you take these beautiful leaves, and you take these leaves and infuse them and drink to treat some of the sexually transmitted diseases. So you can use this in order to treat the STDs. And it works well when it comes to the clearance of fungus that grows by the male reproductive organ. Something is walking at me. What is this sense? I don't know. There's something walking right on me here. What is it?
It's a fly.
It's a fly. Yo, this fly is interested here. When the fly is walking on me like this, can be able to use its taste buds underneath the legs in order to taste me. So this fly is tasting me. So let me just, oh, now I managed to chase it out. So yeah, maybe that fly has got a problem with some of the fungus growing by the copulator organ. So it's hearing me talking about it here. Maybe Sandra is talking too much. Maybe the fly is hearing me, talking about this kind of medicinal plant. So getting back to this beautiful plant, you can hear this plant is very much important. So these plants are occurring in most parts of South Africa. Where I come from, Limpopo, is quite a lot. You can even find them by the villages. And that is where you will see this quite a lot of practice. And some of these trees has been tasted, has been taken to the laboratory test and approved by some of the scientific studies. So you go to some of the pharmacists where I come from, you will buy some of the medicines which are done from this tree. So we did go there to investigate earlier what was the cause of the animals running. But unfortunately, we didn't find anything. So we didn't see anything, but they know what they are running away from. We tried by all means. So I just want us again to come back here so that I can finish with the story before we ran to respond to the alarm call. So I still have got this fungus. I was saying earlier on about the fungus, that fungus, after rain, our grandmothers, after rain, they used to send us to inspect all the termite mounds around the area. These kind of fungus, you see them growing by the termite mounds, and after rain you see them grow, and we'll go and check every time. And if they are not there, we'll come back. Every morning it's a responsibility of going to check, and if they are there, and then we go, we harvest them, and then they cook them for us. We're using this as food. These kind of mushroom, these ones, I'm not sure if these ones are edible, but the ones I'm talking about, they grow up to this size. They don't grow bigger than this. These ones, they can grow very big and become very hard sometimes. The ones that grows next to the road and on top of the animal droppings. These are the ones that you see the most. But there is another kind which is much more smaller like this and bright white. Those are the ones that we eat a lot. So the mushrooms, together with these, what is called the flying ants, the ones we were talking about earlier, those ones, when they fly, in the morning, they land to the open spaces like the ground. If it's on Saturday and there's no school while we were still young, the grannies are going to take us. Sometimes also when there's school, early in the morning before we go to school, we must have to go to the big open ground and look for them, because before they dig, they still walk around early in the mornings. And those that are digging, we used to also open and take them and collect them when they don't have the wings. So when we... the mushrooms that we're eating, it's like some of these trees which are poisonous. We were inheriting the knowledge from the elders. So the elders will be the one with you orientating and pointing out, this one you use, this one you don't use, this one you use. How these elders were determining why this one is poisonous or not is something that I did not do a research, and I didn't ask during that time, because when we were collecting, no questions. To us it's just food and no much questions. So I'm just sharing with you something that I have been doing while I was still very young. So you can hear there's quite a lot of bird calls here. So things are happening here where we are. We might be lucky maybe and come across something big. So now let's quickly cross over back to Tristan and see how his leopard is doing.
On the right. Through a bit of hell to keep up with Tingana, and we've just managed to this thing with Han, which is going to be quite nice. Oh. As good as I've seen you look in many months. You have recaptured his youth in some respects. You can see what it did a few months ago. So I'm thoroughly impressed by his resilience and his bounce back, which is always good news. Now, he's exactly where the dogs were yesterday evening. Well, roughly. I mean, I would say probably about 50 meters from where we left the dogs yesterday evening. It's maybe why he's being a bit tentative, and probably find that the smell of those dogs is all over the place. We were saying that it's very pungent for us. Now, you can imagine an animal like a leopard, how sophisticated its sense of smell is, how strong those wild dog kind of scents must be for him. So he must be picking that up, and that's maybe why he's just a little kind of watchful as he goes. Remember what we were saying earlier is that a leopard will have a hard time with wild dogs, even though they're bigger and stronger animals. A wild dog is just sheer numbers. So when it comes to kind of creatures like Tingana, he's going to have to deal with, 18 wild dogs. It's very tricky to see where all those mouths and kind of teeth and things are coming from, and so leopards tend to be a bit cautious when they smell dogs, unless of course dogs have a kill, and if they hear them feeding, then you'll find that they'll run in and try and grab that kill and up into a tree very quickly, but they'll first assess the situation before they do that. Right, we have somehow got to get through that, and that's not going to be very easy at all. Carol, yes, that's probably quite true. I think he has found a seeming on the was interesting. Oh, guys, I leave out a few before they attack.
Apologies for the technical difficulties. As you all know that here in South Africa, it is now summer, and shortly after the rain, the bush is so excited. Look at this bush. Show them. Senzo, here I've got these very interesting thick bushes. You can see that it is looking completely different and it's green, and all these trees are just growing and growing now. It's time for the trees, in order to make food, to become proactive and make quite a lot of food and put the food by nutrients by the storage organs to survive the next winter season. Already that process has started when looking at the trees excited like this. Oh, here I've got the antlion here, antlion peat. See there. So the antlion, when it's wet, they hide here under the ground, but they get affected. Their activities got restricted. So they are much more active. Mostly they are active when it's too dry and when they can be able to drill the pit so that they can catch the ants. So at this stage, there's quite a lot of food for these ant lions, because these kind of ants are out now. They are just everywhere in order to catch food, and they are concentrating much more on diets such as the flying ants. That is what they are eating a lot now. It's what they're searching for on the ground. And ant lion, they catch the ants. What I like about ant lion is the following. This kind of insects, if you check the ants themselves, they've got what is called a formic acid. And this formic acid is a chemical the ants are using to defend themselves. It is stored somewhere by the pouch, which is inside the body. He doesn't like to eat formic acid, the ant lion. When he is catching the ant, he doesn't eat the body of the ant. He doesn't eat the chitin. He catches and absorb the sip. But when he is absorbing the sip, he must have to be able to separate the formic acid pouch and only absorb the other fluid except that chemical. He knows how to do that. When he's absorbing, he only concentrates in the areas where there is no formic acid and leave the formic acid pouch. These kind of insects are medicinally used. You can use it for various purposes. You can also use it in order to control or to solve convulsion on kids. This works very nicely. You take the mandibulars. You see, the mandibular parts of these termites, of this antlion is like this. And this is what they use in order to catch their prey. And also they shovel like this. You see them flicking. Jackie, thank you very much for the comment. So I'm going to talk like the antlion because I'm talking about the antlion. I'm sure antlion was going to talk like this. When he's digging, he's going to flick all this soil from the ground and he's going to catch and bring to absorb. This kind of insects, these mandibles, has got a traditional belief in Venda. If you come and take them when there is a newborn, when the newborn is growing, when the gums are starting to become harder, we take this to harden the gums. We take this antlion as a whole and we hold it from the back and use the mandibular parts in order to rub against the gums here on the little ones. And these gums, we believe the antlion's equipments, the jaws, they help in order to facilitate the fast growing of the teeth. That is what we believe on. So you can see that it's not just an insect. They are so small, but they've got a very important role to play. The antlion, as well as the shell of the eggs of the ostrich. You see, we take the ostrich shell. If you take that shell and the little one, when it's growing, when you want to harden the gums, we take that shell and we use it to rub there. We rub with the shell against the gums. And we are doing that. That is going to facilitate the fast. It's going to facilitate the growing of the teeth very quickly. Gary, maybe your dentist has got the same belief. You will never know. But I can promise you, these kind of things, they do work. Because for me to grow up like this, I passed there. Those things were done to me. So, and some of the things, I can still remember some of the things that were done as I was growing. Not only to me, also to the youngsters, as I was sent to collect some of the things in order to be done to them. So I am trying to check here. So this is how erosion starts. Here I am going to show you something. So there's a big difference between this area there. You see, this area has got the grasses. The grasses here, they are helping in order to protect the topsoil. What is a topsoil? The soil which is occurring on top is the most important soil to have, because this is the soil which has got the nutrients. There's quite a lot of humus here which support growth of these plants. But now, the topsoil here, and this topsoil, it doesn't have anything growing on it. So you can see here we don't have anything growing. The topsoil, by the rain, you can see evidence of erosion going on here. So it means this part is not much more nutritious than the part we saw with the grasses. Now, let's quickly cross over to Tristan and see how his search is doing.
Well, our search is good. We still managed to keep up with Tingana. We're in a really tricky spot, though. We're in probably one of the hardest places to follow a cat in Djuma. It's really not easy through these blocks, and it's making life quite tricky. The problem also is our signal in here, because it's so undulating, the terrain makes it hard to be able to actually see or be able to kind of keep the signal going. So unfortunately we're kind of playing a game with him. But you can see there his little long whisker on his bottom right part of his face. You see it hanging down there? It's classic. It's making me laugh every time I see it. You can just see it kind of hanging, but he's salivating a little bit, which is interesting. I wonder why you're salivating, Tingy. Or are you just getting hot? Is that maybe why? Anyway, he's sailing through a gap that I don't think we're going to be able to sail through as easily, but we're going to try and just kind of figure it out. David, you might have to suck yourself into a little tiny ball on the back there. Let's just see. I'm going to try and get us round this ocean there. I think we can squeeze. Here. All right, everybody, hold your breath. Okay, everybody's got to hold their breath as much as they can when we try and get through this little spot. So, Tingy, we were supposed to stop there. There we go, he's still walking. You can see there's very bright sunshine now at the moment, so I'm pretty sure he's going to find somewhere to lie down eventually. Maybe towards Gallagher Pan, have a drink, and then go and lie up in the drainage there. That would be my kind of guess that he's going to do. Oh no, he's going to lie down right in front of us. Well done, Tingy. You're very, very good. You make a lot. That is for sure. You hear? Oh, look at that. It's open. It's good. We've managed to get through a place where I didn't think we would actually get this honest with you. This is further than it gets, and so we've been very, very fortunate that he chose a rather delightful route for us, and that he's now decided to lie down right here. It really is kind of a nice spot that he's chosen. It's open, it's clear, we get a very good view of him, and so we're very fortunate to have been able to kind of get to this point with him. From here, it's not as easy as it looks to get it through. It's going to take a lot to kind of get back out of here, but anyway, we'll figure that out much later in time. But you can see he's kind of looking around quite a bit. He's intrigued by something, and like I say, he's salivating quite a bit, but I think that could just be that he's kind of expending energy and around, and it's hot morning. A little bit, but especially if they had their mouth open for quite some time. But he's not really panting, so I'm not sure why there's saliva coming out. He seems very focused on something as well. Every time we've walked, he's stopped and he's listening and he's looking intently in this direction. Wouldn't it be cool if Hosana was here as well? I think that would be fantastic if we could find him and he would be around. I certainly would be very happy if Hosana did make an appearance, that's for sure. It'd be interesting to actually see the two of them side by side once again and see just how much Hosana has kind of made up ground on Tingana in terms of size. So Minamu, leopards don't willingly change their territory as they get older, but what happens is unfortunately as they get a little bit kind of long in the tooth, younger males start appearing and fitter and stronger, and that means that these guys have to start kind of unfortunately moving off to other areas. You can see he's now going to groom his paws and get them nice and clean. So they start to shift and move according to competition. And so if you take Tingana, for example, he would have started out as a cub somewhere. We don't know where he comes from. And then he arrived into this area and started to dominate around Elephant Plains and Simbambili. So he was far to the sort of, what would you call it, the west, I would imagine, northwest, and dominated there for a good sort of 2 years before he then started to be shifted and moved by Anderson. And Mvula, obviously starting to get old, he would then push and apply pressure on Mvula, and slowly but surely his movement east started. He eventually started to kind of push all the way towards Nkoro and had a massive territory at one point. When he was about sort of 9-10 years old, he was having a territory that went from about the Murricane drainage, which is between Arathusa and Simbambili, all the way to the Kruger Park boundary, and then the north-south kind of distance that he had. No, Tingana, lie down again. You've just cleaned your paws, don't get them dirty. He's obviously heard something, I don't know. Look at the way he's standing, he's very alert, isn't he? Off we go again. And so, you know, he had a huge territory at that point, and now as he got a little bit frail, he lost a lot of that territory, with Hukamuri kind of fitting into that Arethusa section, and then Quarantine kind of moving into the Coral eastern section. And it's meant that now Tingana really kind of only is dominating Djuma and Buffels Hook, and we don't see him ever really going south anymore towards Chitwa. I'm sure that other male that Kitish that looks as though it's a descendant of Quarantine Kuchava's.
I've got something very much interesting going on here. I can see someone has been caught, and apologies for the network difficulties. I have got this, and I want to check here what happened. Hey, you can see that it's caught, and there is only a small part I am seeing here, which is now just hanging, and I can see this was a flying ant. So the spiders, they also eat these flying ants. This is hanging by the spider web. You can see there, and I can see this kind of an insect tried by all means in order to escape, but it was difficult. As you know, the spider webs, these kind of silks can be so very much strong, and they can stick. That is how he got caught, and I can see he's dead. It means the spider maybe came down and inject some venom and then leave it there. It's gonna maybe eat it afterwards. So now let's talk about how the spider is going to eat this. You know, spiders, they've got different ways of eating an animal. Some of these spiders, they come here and they are going to vomit their saliva and put all the saliva around this, and after that, that is when they are going to eat it. But some of them, they are able to inject the venom into the body, and they just absorb the intestine from an animal and don't eat these outer parts. So that is very much interesting. Senzo is seeing something I can't see here. So you can see it still have got the wings there, but I don't want to disturb anything here because this is food. It's a breakfast for someone else. So it means the spider staying here is going to come back and have it for the breakfast. So this kind of insects is the ones I was talking about earlier, saying one of them is going to be the king, another one will be the queen. So this is how they look. And they are rich in fat. They've got quite a lot of fat. Some of the people, they use them in order to make butter. You can also take them, you can eat them raw like this when they're fresh. And if you squash them, you'll see a lot of milk coming out. Or some, we dry them and we can put them just in the middle of the slice, and we can just use them as butter and eat. They are so very nice. They are so very good. So now, I know people are so very much confused when it comes to as to whether the termites can see or not. Okay, this is how it works. The termites who are staying under the ground are almost blind. They can't see. But these are also part of the termites. They are coming from there, and they are babies of the termites. These ones, they do have some kind of eyes. That's why they've got to come out and fly. So termites, they do have eyes in the form of islets and swamps. So now we are just going to carry on and see if we can find you something very, very interesting again. So Arbiet, Arbiet has been one of my guests. Morning, Arbiet. So Arbiet, there's quite a lot of food survivors in the bush. Some of the people, they eat crickets. That is determined by the type of tribes, or the type of tribes, sorry. If you come here in South Africa, specifically in Limpopo province, a province where I come from, is very much diverse. It's not like a province which is called KwaZulu-Natal in South Africa, where it's just one tribe staying in that kind of a province. You come to Limpopo, you'll find the Vendas, same province. You'll find the Shangans, same province. You'll find the Tswanas, same province. You'll find the Peris, same province. And you find even some of the Sutus, same province. You'll find the English, same province. You'll find also the Africans, same province. So we are so much very mixed, and there's quite a lot of interesting behavior. There's quite a lot of interesting stories and traditional practice related to all these different kind of tribes I've indicated. So you find that the Shangans eat the crickets while in the bush. We don't eat cricket. We eat, let's say, termites and ants. But some of these things we do share. We also eat, like they also eat. Some of them, a good example, the Shangans, when I grew up, also now, they eat some of the types of the frogs. And then we don't eat those frogs. They eat those kind of frogs. After rain, they come out and look for those frogs specifically, and then they cook them. So there is quite a lot of things in order to survive in the bush, but that depends on the tribe where you come from. So, and we don't have to forget the fruits, because there's even different fruits that we eat. And some of the fruits as well, there's problems. You find that we eat, some other people don't eat. Some say, no, this one is not eatable by this tribe. They've got to believe against it, and then we've got to believe that we can eat. So there's quite a lot of interesting things happening. Stories. There are colors that we don't have to wear when we are going in the bush. So I prefer to wear much more camouflaged, because I want to at least match the surrounding. So every time when going in the bush, I always make sure that I've got something which is much more related to the bush. Bright colors can cause problems, because some of these animals can see. Let me give you an example. Insects. How many times have you seen insects coming to you to land on you because you've got bright colors? So you can see bright colors do also attract some of the things to come to you. Apart from the big and dangerous animals, even small things, insects can be attracted. And when the insects are attracted, when we are in the bush, we have to remain quiet. You might now starting to get irritated by the insects and keep chasing them and spoil the fun because of letting the animals aware of our presence. So now let's quickly cross over back to Tristan and hear how he's doing.
We do indeed. We managed to get through all of those thickets. You can see we've left Tingana now, though. We've sent Jamie bravely in there with the trainees to try and see if they can kind of relocate on him. But the way he walked, it's almost impossible to drive there. In fact, it took some serious maneuvering actually to get out, and apparently David is telling me that we have a very large stick that is poking out of our grill on the left hand side and is creating a nice pattern on the road, which parts of me wants to just leave it there and just leave it to make a nice pattern on the road. Be a bit of feng shui for our Fu Manchu kind of shui. It can just be like that. But anyway, I mean, nice to have found him, and we spent at least a decent portion of time with Tingy this morning. So as much as it's kind of, I would have preferred to have stayed with him for the entirety of the drive. You know, it's the nature of what we do, and the bush itself and the way things go. It's quite tricky in places like this, particularly to just hope. If you have a rough idea, I'm sure he's going to settle. We've got a single one. So if we just drove past Sydney, he's on a kind of crash course for the direction. Maybe the bushwalk team will also get lucky and kind of find him roughly in that area. He's moving around towards sort of Old Hyena Den or from Vubu Road, that kind of general sort of direction. Anyway, we'll carry on now. We'll go see what else we can find. Maybe little Hothana cat will pop out somewhere, or I don't know, you never know, something. We're gonna take kind of central along towards sort of Cheetah Cut Line area, see what's happening with Tundi and Kalamba maybe. KB, I mean, look, these animals are a lot more smarter than we give them credit for a lot of the time, and their hearing is incredibly sensitive, and so I have no doubt they can hear changes in certain voices and pitches and tones. I mean, if they can identify each other's calls, then there's no doubt in my mind that they can understand changes in human voices. The thing is, though, is that I don't think that they would respond to a human's call unless or human's voice, unless there is either a positive or a negative reinforcement that would lead them to kind of be or try and kind of come to it. So when I say that positive or negative reinforcement, what I mean would be chasing them off a kill, stealing their food, injuring them, killing their cubs. That would be negative, and they would then hear the voice and probably feel fearful and move away. And positive would be if we had to feed them. So if every time I drove this Land Rover and I saw Tingana, I dropped an Impala and talked to him while I was doing it, then he would hear my voice and would probably start coming and trying to actively kind of find the food. So, you know, those would be ways that they would respond to a human voice. The way that we are now, I don't think as much, although you never know. I mean, no one's really studied this stuff, and like I say, animals are far more complex than we give them credit for. We like to think that we are far superior in many respects, but maybe we're not. Maybe animals do respond and do notice changes in human tones, and in some ways will be more relaxed or kind of move around. I mean, I'm not sure about that, but I think it you know, I certainly haven't noticed any animal coming running to the car to be with them. So we try not to positive influence. Right, now I apologize that Sydney's got some poor signal. We are also actually doing some running maintenance to our aerial as well at the moment and trying to see if we can maybe sort things out. So David actually is busy at the back there. The camera is just facing me, so you're going to have to look at my ugly mug for the next few minutes while David sorts out our aerial and tries to make sure that we get as best a signal as possible. Unfortunately, going through the areas that we did, the kind of aerial got bounced about a little bit, and so we're just making sure everything is sorted. But David is now giving me the thumbs up, everybody.
All good.
All good. David, you're looking very racy this morning. David's got a new set of sunglasses that are they bush camo and wraparound apparently, and this apparently is the best for a camo as far as I hear. There we go. There's David's mug. The dish is on camera with his fancy new sunglasses that he has on his face. The handsome man himself, exactly, Luke. I mean, how could you not kind of gush at those dimples? Hey, David? David's just laughing behind me. Anyway, we're going to try and forge our way forward and see if potentially we can hold on to some signal. The idea is not to head into any dodgy areas, although I've got to cross one drainage line that I'm hoping won't give us a problem. It sometimes does, so I do apologize, guys. I know we've had a few issues this morning, and we've got a bit of an issue up in the Mara, and that's why you haven't seen David for quite some time, and they're trying to sort it out. He's got no comms whatsoever with the final control here in Djuma, and so obviously that means that he can't really do the job at all. So we've got no Mara, so it's down to Sydney and I at the moment, which is fine. We'll soldier through it. So if you can just be patient and bear with us. At the end of the day, you know, being able to broadcast out of Africa every single day, twice a day, is a feat in itself. And I know, you know, it might seem as though this is an easy story and that it should just kind of should be, you know, easy to fix, and that by now we should have the technology to do these things, but it's a lot more complicated than one thinks. And as the vegetation gets thicker and the terrain changes, it becomes that much harder. Signal doesn't do very well by going through leaves. It kind of gets bounced back, and so that's what makes a lot of these signal breakups at this time of the year. So you'll just unfortunately have to be a little bit patient with us, but we'll try our very best to try and see if we can just stay out of the bad places and find things for you to look at. Anyway, sounds like Sydney has found something for you guys to look at, and it's probably quite smelly, so let's go across and see what he's got.
You can see that I am talking from this side because the wind is coming from that direction. I have got this dropping here, which is not that very old. You can see there is a big party of the skin beetles. The skin beetles are there. You can see their body looks very rough. So this is the skin beetle, also commonly known as the hide beetles. Some other people, they call them the trogit beetles. So these kind of beetles, they are the last one to appear when there's a carcass, and also when there's droppings. These are the ones who comes there. They feed on hairs. They can also feed on feathers, and they feed on quite a lot of things from these droppings. So these kind of beetles, they have got a very important role to play. The beetles, such as these trogit beetles, can also be used in order to determine the age of a carcass or the age of anything dead. The forensic investigators also rely on this kind of insects to try and determine the age and what might have happened to a dead animal. This kind of animals helps the forensic investigators. Imagine a very small insect contributing towards the forensic investigation. That is amazing. So you will see them mostly also competing with the flies. There's even flies there. I can see the competing with flies. They're also found in dry scat of these cats. So if you touch them, they act dead. So here where I am, it is not smelling nice. We're going to leave this sighting and see if we can find you something else. Carol, there's different kind of beetles. That is why the one which eat dung, specifically some they are called dung beetle. So there's quite a lot of different beetles. Some of the beetles don't only feed on these dungs. Dung beetles, yes, those ones, they feed on dungs. Anne-Marie, I do have a favorite tree. And unfortunately, the tree that I like the most, fortunately, it's occurring here, is the sickle bush. Why the sickle bush? That sickle bush, there's quite a lot of things I have done with it. I have shown you this before. If I come across the sickle bush today, I'm going to perform a story. That used to be my tree in order to make my parents to forget about what I did in the mornings. If I do anything wrong at home, I go and quickly and get the sickle bush and talk to the sickle bush and say, please, let everybody forget about what I have done. They mustn't ask about it when I come back home later on. And it was going to happen. So that is my tree. It was a busy tree, and I can promise you some of them. I used to walk maybe to the bushes. Sometimes it was taking me 30 minutes to get to where they are. Because if you're walking, looking for the sickle bushes, you will find them open already everywhere. And I need the one which is not open, because it was not only used by me. Everybody was using it. So in order to get the one which is not disturbed, sometimes it was not easy. I was have to travel long distances searching if it's not open. So maybe I'll find a sickle bush here and be able to show you how it works. So now let's quickly cross over to Tristan and hear what he used to do when he used to be naughty.
Oh, Sydney, when I was naughty, I wouldn't go anywhere but run out of the house and make sure I got away from being disciplined by a wooden spoon or something like that. No, I was naughty too much to actually really care in the end, and so I just took whatever punishment came my way. But as you can see, our morning of good luck continues, because in front of us on the road is 2 evokers and 2 Nkuhuma lionesses that have all paired up together and is kind of taking it very easy, lounging on the road. It's been very simple this morning. I haven't had to really look hard for anything, which is ridiculous. So anyway, we're having a good kind of morning, and we've been very fortunate to be able to kind of see as much as we have this morning. It's been one of those kind of days that has been very easy. But anyway, nice to see these evokers. I haven't seen them in months. In fact, when did I last see them? I actually saw them just before I went to Kenya. I remember we had the one that was being so skittish and moving away all the time. But they've developed nicely. Their manes are starting to really kind of grow and get some color to them. And they've bulked up quite a bit. It's obviously always nice to see the Nkuhumas too, because they're such beautiful lionesses. So it's good that we maybe are going to get another generation. Wouldn't it be nice if we got some little Nkuhuma cubs on Djuma, particularly if the evokers are going to spend some time around here? We might get a situation like we had with the Birmingham boys, where they kind of mated with multiple Nkuhumas. Cubs were formed, or born, should I say, and we were able to then kind of have them for days on end, because they spent some time on the property having their little ones, and little tiny lion fluff balls certainly would brighten up everybody's day. So hopefully that is the case. It's obviously going to mean that there's going to be a bit of a kind of unstable period now for the Nkuhuma pride if these females did potentially give birth to cubs to the evokers, because the other 3 females, I assume that this is the youngest female and Amber Eyes that is here. I mean, I could be wrong, but I would imagine that the other 3 females that still have the sub-adults, they're not going to be too kind of happy to spend much time with the evoker males, and are going to try and probably in all likelihood, you know, shy away from them. And that might mean that we do finally see a split in the Nkuhumas, and given the numbers that there are with the Ngumas, it's going to be very tricky for them to sustain food for, especially with the Mangan male, and if the Talamati rejoins again, it's going to be a lot of mouths to feed. And during summer, it's really tricky for them to find food or enough food for them. So you might see that they split off a little bit, and especially if these females have cubs, they're going to spend a lot of time by themselves and bounce between the pride and the and the pride itself. Now, Carol is the third evoker male part of this coalition still. Carol, to be honest with you, I can't really tell you, and the reason why is that I've spent very little time with the evokers. In fact, this is only my fourth time that I've seen them, so I really don't know them well enough to know exactly what's been going on with them. What I will say is that I find it incredibly odd that these two have been cruising around, been very vocal. They've found females, got to a buffalo kill yesterday, and there's been not a single sign of the third one. No one has called in another male lion anywhere, and you would expect him to be somewhere close by, unless, of course, he's with the Torchwood Pride and is mating with them. But I don't know. I mean, I don't know the answer to that question. Theoretically, yes. And in a situation with coalition members, and when you get a lot of kind of movement with coalitions, they'll spend a lot of time apart, but they are essentially still a coalition. So even if he's mating with the Torchwoods and these guys are mating with the Nkumas, it doesn't mean that they've now no longer going to form a coalition. It just means that there's a massive area that they're patrolling, and they'll split up every now and then they join up. And the Birminghams were exactly the same, as were the Mapochos, as were the Majingalans. They all kind of just do this. They go and they dominate a large area, and they split as a group, but then where the successful coalitions come in is when there's trouble, they come together and they defend their territory as a unit. And that's where probably the Majingis have been the most successful out of the previous coalitions that we've had over the past few years. So Mapocho has ended up splitting too much, and they slowly got whittled down. Rather than actually being, and then dead, but there's also been no sign of him. And 9 months, normally 9 months.
I am here having something very much interesting, and you are going to love this. This is something very, very rare. It's my first time to see this kind of an animal here, and they're always hiding. I don't find them, and I'm going to show you just now. This animal is right here. I'm trying to check what it's trying to do here, and now I can see that the animal is not doing anything, and the ants are even coming around it. Come this side, Senzo. I can see I've got this very beautiful animal here. This is an animal. This is an animal. You see there? But it doesn't look like an animal if you look at it from a distance. This is called a slug. A slug falls under the group of the snails. And the slugs, you can see there. Look. I can see the antennae is about to come out. So it's trying to sense what is happening there. So this slug, they are more just like you can see that antennae is sitting there. They're like the snails, where they go past, you will see that kind of a slimy on the ground that they use in order to protect the body. Look there, you can see that we've got that antennae is coming out. So maybe it's going to move now. Let's just wait and see. Look, it's moving now. You can see that. It's very much slimy, and you can use the secretion as well in order to disappear the wrinkles. It works very nicely, and also in order for the skin. Look at that, now it's moving. So first time for me to see the slug. Carol, unfortunately the slugs don't have a shell, at all. They are not like snails with that spiral shells. So these ones don't have a shell. They do have some kind of similar characteristics, such as you can see the antennae, but I'm only seeing 3 antennae. There's two antennae at the bottom and there's one on top. So I can't see the other antennae. This is a beautiful sighting. They like the moisturized areas, and that is where they eat leaves, and they eat all these kind of dead. Sometimes they even eat carrions. Some of the slugs are predators. They even catch other slugs. Some even eat the earthworms. Look at that. This is a fantastic sighting. This is my first slug here in Djuma. The last time I've seen the slug, it was many years ago, because we used to see these slugs at home, and they like to climb the gardens. You'll see them by the gardens climbing some of the vegetables. Yo, you can see it looks very much smooth. Bob, the ants, because of that slimy secretion, it's not easy. There's even an ant there. If you check on the other side, there's an ant. That ant just went now to the front. There's an ant which is walking there. So that slug is now coming close to that grass. So the ants are not coming there. So I can see that here, the slimy, they secrete. I can see it nicely. But if you provoke this, and also the snails sometimes, when they're threatened, they secrete that slimy. And that secretion is the one that we use in order to help when it comes to the skin as well as the wrinkles. The wrinkles.
I wanted to pass it.
So now let's quickly go back to Tristan and the lions.
Indeed, we are still with our lions. They are very, very sleepy. There's not much in the way of activity with these guys. I suppose it's gotten quite hot, and they probably were very active all the way through the night and made quite a lot of did a lot of naughty things, and now they're going to sleep it away. You can see that male's got a few little cuts on his nose. He's been hit a few times over the past few months, I would imagine, and when they've eaten, and look at that. That is as lazy a lay down as I've seen in a very long time. But you see, look how they're going to growl at each other. The two boys are not happy about each other's presence. I wouldn't be surprised if they actually get a little bit feisty with one another. I suppose when each one's got its own own female, they would get a little bit kind of frustrated with each other being so close. I wouldn't be surprised if they split apart a little bit in terms of this mating. But anyway, very, very kind of cool that we've been able to kind of catch up with them as well. It's going to be a lazy affair, I would imagine. They've got a tummy full of buffalo. Oh, are you going to mate? She just rolled over. We're going to lick her ears, going to whisper sweet nothings. The boys are not impressed with each other being so close to their respective females. I always laugh at these guys when they get so protective of their females. Generally they stick to their female because they get quite defensive of that female, but there is a possibility that there will be a partner swap. I mean, I've seen Amber Eyes mate with all 4 of the Birminghams at one point, so you do get that kind of change, and you will get a sort of a female that will bounce between, and often the females are the ones that actually do it, so they'll try and kind of get away from one male and mate with the other, just so that they reassure themselves and make sure that those males all think that they've mated with her. So there might be a swap over, but it would take a lot. So there'd have to be a separation and back together again to be able to actually start kind of be able to figure out the sort of process. Sorry, I'm just listening. The radio has been an absolute nightmare this morning. There's been people talking non-stop. Wild dogs tend to cause havoc on the radio, and so my ear's just been bleeding for the last hour and a half or 2 hours of my life. So I just had to turn that down, sorry. But these guys are going to be very, very sleepy for now. They're going to probably, in all likelihood, kind of rest and take it easy. And like I say, with a bit of sun, you might see a female move every now and then, or a male. You might see them kind of try and mate with each other, or the males definitely. If the females aren't really that interested, then, and they're in a false estrus, then they don't really initiate it as much as when they're in a serious estrus. When they're in a proper estrus cycle, they've actively searched out for males. They are very flirtatious, and they'll be in and out, and they'll be mating every sort of 5-10 minutes. But when it's more just a false estrus and almost a diversion to protect the pride, which does happen sometimes, you often see when new males come in, there will be certain females that will kind of try and drag the males away from the pride as much as possible. Then those false estruses, you often get this kind of process where there's a lot of just sort of lying down and sleeping, and there will be the odd mating, but it's not really as intense and as frequent as what you get when you see when there's multiple different individuals, or when they're in a proper estrus. Sorry, I don't know why I'm getting confused this morning, thinking of many different things at once. But anyway, that lioness, I'm pretty sure, on the right is going to move. She's going to get up shortly, I would imagine. The sun is beating down on her at the moment, and she's going to get quite hot quite quickly. And I wouldn't be surprised if she moves kind of further towards where we are. There's a nice wattle that is in front of me that will be a nice shady spot for these guys during the course of the day. And if she moves towards the other male, you'll find the male that's lying next to her will try and cut her off as quick as possible and try and shepherd her rather away from his coalition partner, so that he doesn't actually have to come to blows. But it's interesting to see their kind of, like I say, their manes have really kind of poofed out a little bit. They've gone from mohawks to manes quite quickly, which is really good news for these guys. But not much happening at this stage. They are being as sleepy as one could ever imagine. So, Carol, basically what happens is essentially, yes, the females are not going to really allow the males to mount them and copulate with them unless they are ready to. And so what they'll do is they'll often, they'll try, especially if they're in false estruses, they'll lure the male by kind of being in front of him, and then as he approaches, they'll run off, and kind of that keeps going on. But in terms of when they're actually mating, you'll find the female will get up, she'll rub up on him. They're not quite as feisty as what the leopards are. Leopards are a lot more kind of proactive, the females, about getting males to mate with them. But lionesses will do it. They'll get up, they'll kind of head rub, they'll lie in front, they'll sort of flirt, tail flick, and then the males will mount them, and they will mate. So the female kind of initiates the mating a lot of the time. Males, if the female moves, or like you saw there where she rolled over, they'll approach, but if she doesn't sort of get onto her haunches and sort of be receptive, then they are very kind of nervous around her, because she'll often just sort of lash out with claws and teeth, and the males are trying to kind of woo them and not try and hurt them. So, you know, they want to be able to breed and want to be able to produce future offspring. And so they kind of rely on the females to give them the signal, rather than just taking liberties and trying to kind of mate with them, because it generally ends up in a swat to the face, which I'm sure is not very pleasant when there's 5 sharp needle-like claws on a paw with a lot of power behind it. So be interesting. What is interesting is I'm 99% sure just now I heard another lion roar from north of us in Buffelshoek. So I wonder if that's not the third evoker male that's just calling from Buffelshoek side, trying to see if he can contact his 2 brothers. But look how he's looking at her so longingly, as if to say, please wake up. She's flicking her ear, but I don't think she's going to move just yet. The sun is starting to hit her quite nicely, so, you know, with all that sun, she might start getting a little bit warm. There is a nice breeze blowing, though. Hello, boy. Oof, you've got lots of scars on your face. Did you have a big fight over that buffalo? Costa, not yet. It's tricky. I mean, all we've really seen of both of these females is their backs. So tricky to know exactly which ones it is. I assume, like I say, that it is the youngest female and amber eyes. They're the 2 without cubs, and the 2 that have mated quite repeatedly over the past few months. And so I would assume it's them, but I don't know, to be honest. It's not 100% confirmed as to who each female is at the moment. Come on, girl, wake up. Well, this is a lovely surprise, is that our long-lost Kenyan comrade David has finally returned back to us, and he's sorted out his comms issues, so off you go to him to see what he's been up to.
Lions go flat, then you need to go to active animals, and that's why we have these Ellies here, which is saying they remain David's favorite animals because they rarely go flat, and when they go flat, something will be very wrong with them. Well, we did get to the Sausage Republic. We didn't win. We were not very lucky, and we thought we were going to try again in the afternoon. And we found this herd of elephants here, which is giving us a trunk up, an indication that we might be much lucky later in the day. And I'm looking at the tail of that particular elephant there. It's kinked a little bit, just like the kink tail of the sausage tree pride. We have always had, or have a myth here in Africa, if you see elephants trunk up, is a sign of good luck. So most likely this afternoon I'll be able to catch up with the sausages, which I did not see. Just that elephant there, have one. So thank you very much. Thank you for having me back, and you're happy that I'm back. Yes, I went to one area, signal was not very good, and then I went in some drainage trying to smoke out the sausages, which I did not get. But I'm very happy that you've been waiting to hear me and see me again. Thank you so very much, Asante Sana. But at least we got some elephants here, you know, weaving through the Mara Triangle Savannah. And the small little calves also in this herd of the African elephant. There's one I had seen, I thought had only one tusk. I think it must have disappeared. It's a big cow there. This one got both tusks. And you can see the grass now has come quite tall after the rains we've been having here. And the tallest grass you see amongst the rest is called the red oat grass, which is very favorite, or liked most exactly that one there. Actually, thank you very much, by the wildebeests. And it will keep growing taller, and when we come to the next rain season next year, it might even go up to 6 feet, 5 to 6 feet high, you would imagine. And we'll wait until the wildebeests come in to bring it down. Elephants love it, but not as much. For now, they are only going for the short, green, very lush grass, which is definitely very nutritious for them. That could be the elephant I was talking about that had one tusk or not. Maybe not this particular one. I think, yeah, this one got both. So depending on where they are, depending on what they want to do, they may go eating a lot, because at the moment it's still cold. So it's so great to see elephants again, and it's nice. I mean, who would not want to see elephants? As I've always said, being my favorite animals, Ellies will entertain everybody. I mean, lions are always fun to watch, leopards, cheetahs, but an elephant, as big as they are always very intelligent and mobile. If not flapping their ears, how they feed, I don't think there's any other animal that feeds like an elephant. Let's think of it. Using their trunk, how they choose what to pick and what not to pick. And if it's about, grabbing or grasping some grass, how they coil it round. And if it has any amount of soil or dirt in it, how they shake it a little bit. And they bring it towards the mouth. And if they realize, this is not good, you see them dropping the whole thing. Koska, that's a very good question. Can elephants ever have twins? Ideally, I would say yes. It's very hard to see them getting twins, but it's possible. Personally, I have never seen Ellies having twins. I have not even heard of one, but I would say it's practical, it's possible, anything out in the bush. We're talking of these cows carrying a baby for 22 months. So that's a very long time to carry 2 babies for 22 months. And these babies, when they're born, some of them are about almost 100 kilos in weight, 80 kilos. So you'd imagine that elephant carrying almost 150 or 200 kilos in that belly. It could be a bit difficult, but I think it's possible. Not one that I have seen with twins, but I think it's possible. But why it may not be something we have seen every other time out here is the gestation period being so long. But in general, Every time they carry a baby, it will be one in about 22 months. All right, our Ellies have moved. I'm happy myself to be back in business. So we also need to move and find out what else we might see ahead. We might see other lions. Okay. Always entertaining to see Ellies out here with such wonderful light. They're the only animals I would say are ruling the Mara Triangle now, having the wildebeest gone, so they'll have a lot to eat, and it's good because most of them have lots of calves at this time around. We might wait until maybe next year, June, July, for the wildebeest to come back again to Kenya. So most of them now are in Serengeti National Park in Tanzania, and that is the eastern side of Serengeti, and some of them could be on the western side of the Ngorongoro Conservation Area, because they have had this tradition. Come the month of February is the time they give birth. So it's next month, I would say maybe in the next what? I would say the next 6 weeks or 7 weeks, they will start calving down there, and as soon as these babies are born, they grow or they stand very quickly, and the mothers will always tell them, put your heads down and keep moving. Then they swing again, coming towards the north. So we don't expect to see them until maybe sometimes end of June or early July. Last year they came in the Mara very late, and for that reason also they stayed late before swinging back to Serengeti. Sarah, I would say the Mara, and especially this side, would remain green all year round. There's a particular month I would say about, say next month, which is February and March, that's a bit dry shortly before we get the rains, and I'm talking about the long rains, but in general it remains green as it is the whole of the year in general. The other side of the Mara, I'm not sure why it doesn't remain as green. It gets a bit yellowy, but I think we have a lot of effect of weather or rain here from Lake Victoria, so we are much closer to Lake Victoria here than the other side of the Mara. Okay, so the other animals apart from the elephants that you'll be seeing a lot this time until next year will be buffaloes, and buffaloes will be going in huge herds, and those are the prey the lions will be dealing with at the moment. There's a particular pride of lions that we call the olololo, which is a large pride, and olololos have been known to go for for buffaloes. And why we call them ololo, I'm going to show you an escarpment here. That's why we call them olololo to our left, and it's one of the most beautiful escarpments I know of. And that is the escarpment I'm talking about, because most of our lions here will give them names either depending on the area they are found on, also because of how they look or their behavior. So the pride of lions I'm talking about here, that's called olololo, have been known to stick around this area, and that escarpment you see there in the background is the olololo escarpment. Well, Sydney, I'm sure, is always happy when doing lots of tracking. Let's get an update from him.
I found something very interesting here. These insects are all stick by the spider, and this one is still alive. And if you can check, all these insects, they are just hanged by one string, just one string of a silk. This is how strong the silk is. Look at this, just one string all the way from a tree hanging down. It means there was a trap here which was constructed by a spider, and they all fell right onto the trap and they got trapped. And look at what they're doing now. They have been circling and trying by all means to run away, but it's difficult. I can see this one is still alive. I can see how this one is kicking there. So this is the most efficient way of the spiders in order to conserve energy. Because when they make the trap, they don't lose any energy. They only lose energy during the construction. After that, done deal. is just a time for them to wait until they catch, and they will come to eat at their own time. So in order to show that a spider silk is important, let's consider some of the uses of this spider silk. The spider silks can be used in order to make the bulletproofs. So you see, just this single string can make a big difference in order to make a bulletproof. And it can also be used in order to make the parachute. Imagine, this can be used in order to make the bandages as well. We can also use them in order to help the weak blood vessels. So that is how important and strong the spider silk is like. You can see the wind is carrying all this with heavy weight away, but the wind is not even breaking this thing. Look at that. This is a spider fishing line. It's a spider insect line. You can see this is an insect line. So this spider is catching this all the time. So spiders, when they're secreting this kind of silks, they secrete different types of silks. One, they secrete this silk for safety, a safety line, and they will also secrete the sticky line which catches, and the fine lines that they are using in order to wrap the prey when the prey is landing on these webs. This is amazing. So you can see how strong this silk is like. So powerful. So some of the spiders use the silk in order to seal the females. Those spiders who doesn't want to share their females, after mating, they secrete a silk in order to stick the copulatory organ called the epigynom of the female so that the other ones don't come. Other spiders, when they come to this silk, they sniff on the ground like, and from sniffing, they know, when they sniff this, they are going to know how old is the one who did the web. They are even going to know when last was he there. They are even going to know the individual identity of that web. So from the web, they are so clever. Some of these kind of spiders, when they are walking on the ground, they produce the silk to follow them for safety, so that if anything wants to follow them, it can get caught there. It's not going to be able to access the body. Carol, the strongness of this, I'm not sure if it's determined by the diet, but it is also determined by the type of gland which is secreting. As I've indicated, they have got different glands in order to produce different lines. So the lines which are weaker are coming from the weak glands, which are specifically for that. Some of these glands, they only produce the thin silk. Some, they produce the sticky silk. Some, they will produce a safe line. So all these kind of silks, they are not the same, and the texture as well is not the same. So you can see that this is a very big load for such a single string in order to hold. Oh, there's something here. What are we seeing here? So there is looks like it's an ant. So the spiders are some of those things that fascinate me a lot. And there is people who studied these insects and arachnids. And there's different sources of information. But when it comes to this kind of information, we are researching as guides every day. There is quite a lot of contradictions, and we don't use the same kind of materials or the sources in order to get the information. That's why sometimes a lot you'll find the information different from all of us. But some we use the same kind of study materials. So there's quite a lot of various studies done by different people about the very same kind of animals. And they were done in different seasons. Remember, animals, they don't behave the same all year round. During the dry season, the behavior is different. Rainy season, you find a different behavior. Mating season, a different behavior. In the morning, different behavior. Afternoon, same animals doing something else. In the evening, they are doing something else. So there is quite a lot of things involved in order to get to the behavior of these animals. That is why some of the books, if you check, you will see they will indicate if a book, a research has been done in Juma, for example. This is just an example. The book will say animal behavior of animals occurring in Juma Game Reserve, which means if you go somewhere else, you might find a different behavior because the research was specifically done to that area. Now, let's quickly cross over to my other colleague.
We're all good. We have lions. There was a few vehicles that want to look at them, and they were very. So we're now just about patrol we're on at the moment. We're trying to find the little chief. So we came down to Twin Dams to have a little look. There are tracks for south over Gari, Maine. I mean, I know who this could be because Hukumuri is on Earth, and then we had Tingana coming. Maybe it's that skittish male on this area. It's quite a large pack. That Hosanna cat is moving around. I call him, he's not really anymore. He's a big boy these days. So, you know, we'll see. Maybe. Are being a pain in the backside, so I'll continue my discussion about Hosanna just now, but in the Masai Mara, and hopefully he'll get some luck this morning and find the little sausages.
Once in a while, you know, we'll get some gremlins, and because of the challenges we face, just to come to you live from Africa's wilderness. Anyhow, we apologize for that, but I'm here and still trying to get some animals. I haven't been lucky to get lions. At least it was nice to see that herd of elephants, and which I think were all composed of females and some youngsters. I'm going up a small hill now, and what I can see above the hill is maybe another elephant, which I guess it's a male. And I would say chances is it could be a male because he is alone there. Let me see if we can get a little good angle here. It's the best you can do. And I think it looks like to be a boy, and just because of being on his own. Could be a girl also, but my guess is a boy in having the Ololor escarpment in the background. Or is it a girl? Let's find out. Some of them you have to look between their front legs, and that will tell you 100% whether it's a girl. And I would wonder why she is alone. If she is a girl, looking behind or between their hind legs for elephants is always a challenge. Keep walking, don't stop, and come towards us. We need to identify something, and you look gorgeous in that light. These are the largest mammals we got in Africa, and so good to see the Ololo in the background there. Very intelligent animals. So I've stopped to think of something. I think it's a boy to me. I think you say, what a beautiful picture, and it is marvelous because I think it's a boy, and this one should make a portrait. If you can get some screenshots of this big boy here, and it's not unusual to see him alone. This is very typical of males, and especially the very senior males. He got wonderful light, and look at that head and neck there, and I hope you're still taking some pictures. So he might be trying to investigate who we are, what you're made up. They're very intelligent animals. They read us for a couple of seconds or minutes, and then sometimes move away. So basically there, I would say so far so good. And of course, as he moves his trunk up like that, he still continuing to digest us until he is comfortable with us, and I'm sure he is. Unless you see him putting his tail in a particular angle, but if you wax the tail like that, or so far, it's so far so good. So once the boys grow old in the herd and they get to that, you know, showing some signs of puberty, the matriarch will always show them the door and, you know, go live your life. Thank you very much. I'm happy, and that's the sign of like what's up, you know, and the message is to me, and I'm telling you Happy New Year, because you look wonderful, perfect light. And these animals, so long as you switch off your engine, you're not very loud, you remain soft like me, they'll give you some wonderful entertainment. And maybe shortly he is going to start eating. Wow, still not sure what you're made of. And if you look at the end of that trunk, you see it got like two projections, like two fingers. That's one major difference between the African elephant and the Asian elephant, what you saw there. And the Asian elephant has one of that, and the African elephant has two. Not sure the temporal glands seem to be a bit streamy. If you look behind the eye there, it could be a bit streamy. Sometimes that happens when the Ellis, thank you Archie, are in mast. And when they are in mast, their testosterone hormones are quite high, and at times they get a bit angry or grumpy. But as far as I'm concerned, he looks fine. He's still just trying to visit with us and touch base. Young man, I think you should start eating. I think you have known who we are, and if you haven't gotten to know us, I'm sure we are going to meet you round the corner again, because we're going to leave you and enjoy your day as we take you back to the guy who's trucking in South Africa.
I am right here at one of the small water hole, and I've got a dragonfly, which is a very beautiful dragonfly. Is up in the air and it's very much stationary at the moment. Look at that. And this dragonfly is so fast. Every time I move, he moves. Every time I move, he flies. So they can be able to detect my, you can see now he's back. They can be able to detect my presence very easy. You can see that when it's like that, when I move a little bit, this dragonfly is going to move. So I don't want to move at all. As I can see, this is so beautiful. Look at that. Look at that. So the dragonflies use the baskets on their legs in order to catch their prey. So they are here now. They are now by this little water hole which has been dug by the elephant. By looking at the shape of this water hole, I can tell the elephant has been here and is the one who are busy extending this part. So in a very short space, we are going to have a very good big dam here. You can see animals has been here. There's quite a lot of different tracks here where we are. And this track is showing animals were drinking when the water was still here. But now you will see just that this is small. If this was a big dam, when these animals are drinking and water is getting finished, they are forced to go in. When they go in, this is what is going to happen. Because it's so very much soft, animals get stuck. So the big animals such as the rhinos, as well as the elephants, they do get stuck here. I have assisted not one or two rhinos before when the rhinos were stuck by these water holes. They get stuck and then the vet get called. We go for assistance and we pull the animal out. So a water hole like this can be a threat to the big animals. Because when they come here, they come with the intentions of drinking and doing mud wallowing. And because of too much moisture and saturated area, they get stuck when wanting to come out. So right there, where I nearly fell there. So right here, where Senzo is, you can see there is some kind of dots there. You can see the holes going in. And it's two holes. This is showing you that the tortoise came here and also had a drink. So this tortoise approached from this side. I can see there for balance, and then he was drinking. So these areas, when I grew up, We used to come here a lot in order to collect water by the fountains. Fountains like this, we used to share this water with animals. We used to go, sometimes we put a pipe there in order to collect water very far on the other side, if it's a steep-sided area. So a fountain also gives us very nice water, clean water. We used to take it and we don't even cook it at home. We just drink it straight away. And it was nice and cold all the time. So now let's quickly cross over to Tristan, who's got another leopard.
We do, but a leopard that I haven't seen in a very long time. So Hukumuri is lying under a bush at the moment and is kind of just looking around. So what a cool thing to have gotten this morning. We've been spoilt thoroughly by having many sightings. We've had everything this morning. We've had Tingana, we've had Hukumuri, we've had dogs, we've had lions. So it's been a kind of crazy morning in many respects. But you can see his wild eye gaze that he has and that scar across his kind of bridge of his nose. It's quite an easy leopard to recognize. This is no other leopards that look anything like him in this particular part of the world. He's, like I say, got a very wide-eyed stare, and it's really good to see him. I haven't seen Hukumuri since April, so last year, so it gives you an idea of how long that's been. It's been a very long time since I've seen him, and he's looking fantastic. There's that awkwardly long tongue that he has. He's got this ridiculously long tongue. I don't know where it comes from, but it's crazy how long his tongue is. He's almost a bit like a snake when he kind of puts it out, and I always thoroughly enjoy spending time with him when it's hot, because he pants and then this tongue hangs out. And he looks a little bit simple sometimes when he does that. But he really is in fantastic condition. What I will say, though, is that he is not a shadow on terms of size in comparison to Tingana. Tingana's a bigger boy than him by a long way. And that, especially even in the dewlap area, if you look at his dewlap, it's much smaller than what you see from Tingana. So while Hukumuri has done well to dominate an area, he certainly is not the largest male leopard that we have out here. And it's probably why when Tingana got back into kind of rhythm again and gained some condition and started to vocalize, we saw a kind of disappearance of Hukumuri from Vuyatela and from Djuma quite a bit. So we didn't see nearly as much of him as what we were seeing prior to that when Tingana was ill. So he's still a magnificent creature, though. He's kind of in his prime at the moment, and while he's not exactly the largest leopard that there is, he certainly is probably a very street smart leopard, because to get to where he's gotten and travel the distances he's traveled and stay alive, he must have really kind of gone through quite a lot, and that means that a lot of those experiences would have helped him to gain, a territory like this, which is such a sought after area, so he's done incredibly well, and he really, like I say, is a beautiful cat. Karen, we're far from where Tingana is. So Tingana is north of the camp, and we're right on the southern boundary, on the west kind of side of Twin Dams. We're basically straight south of Treehouse Dam at the moment, on the southern boundary, so there's a long way between the two of them at this stage. What's intriguing, though, is that these are not the tracks that we found at Twin Dams, so I'm not sure which other male leopard is around here. His tracks have come from the south. He's crossed over from Hofmans, whereas those tracks were heading south from sort of Twin Dams, unless maybe he was there last night, but I highly doubt it, because he was seen at Elephant Plains yesterday, so he must have come from far west and has kind of moved through. But there's that telltale face and those orange eyes that he's got. He's got a very piercing gaze, does Hukumuri. He might not be big, but there's some attitude there, and there's a certain kind of, I don't know what the word is for him. He's very sort of, I don't know, he's got a presence about him that makes you feel a little uneasy when he kind of stares at you. He's definitely very wild-eyed in many kind of respects, but like I say, really nice to see him, and him moving into these kind of areas. As much as it's, we don't want him to move too much, we do want him to kind of clip the edge of Djuma and to move around from sort of Treehouse to the west. And the reason why I say that is because that's going to make it more comfortable for Shadulu to come onto this area. And we at the moment have a bit of a void in that Thandi is spending so much time around Torchwood at the moment. She's not spending much time on Djuma at all, and so it would be nice if we had Shadulu just kind of being a little bit more constant on the west, and so much like what we had when Karula was here and Shadow used to come into this area quite regularly, it would be quite nice if we had sort of Shadulu in the western side, Tundi on the eastern side, and it would obviously make life a little bit better in terms of, and also with Shadulu having small cubs, it would be nice to have little cubs running around once again. So his movements around these areas are vitally important for kind of us to have another female leopard sort of on this particular part of the area. Anyway, well, we're going to sit with Hukumuri for the rest of the drive and see what he gets up to. I'm hoping he's just going to really kind of take it easy and nap, and that he'll spend the day here, but we'll see what goes on. In the meantime, though, back up to David, and he's apparently with a very big journey of giraffe.
How exciting to have spotted Hukumuri. But now Hukumuri got spots, and we got different animals here that equally got spots, but much bigger, a little different. And these are the Maasai giraffe, and this is one of the largest herds of giraffes I've seen in the Mara Triangle in the recent past, because we were trying to count with Archie and we ended up with 20 plus. It's a massive number of giraffes, and we made a joke and said either they have a very special and important meeting today. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, should you have any questions or comments, you may send them through #SafariLive on Twitter. We have this such a lovely sighting of giraffes with, I think, the best light I have seen in a long time. We are in the Mara Triangle in Kenya. And look, in the final control says he has not seen as many giraffes as this in one go. But as I said, there are definitely over 20 of them. Let me do one more count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22 giraffes. And I don't want to call this a migration of giraffe, but it's a mini migration, if I may call it that way. And as usual, we know giraffes are ruminants, and you can see them just re-chewing what they might have eaten earlier. Exactly, yes, there's always one of our lovely viewers called Giraffe Girl, wherever you are. These giraffes have come out here to tell you Happy New Year, Giraffe Girl. Where are you, honestly? Because this, I'm sure most of the viewers are going to document for you and tell you you missed big time, because this was a day for you to come and meet all these giraffes and wave at them, because if you look at them carefully, they are flicking their tails and telling Giraffe Girl, Happy New Year, Happy 2019. Actually, I've counted at 2 more, so from 22 I've gone to 24, so we are talking of 24 giraffes. Dory, good question. Are they mixed females and males? Most of them, Dory, I'm looking at them carefully, and I guess all of them are girls. You'll always see them walking together, but from what I am gathering, Dory, most of them, if not all, are girls. And I'm sure you can always tell how we tell the difference between girls and boys. If you look at their ossicons, Dory, you'll notice they have like sprouts of hair at the end of them. And when you look at the males are flat. The males are always having little issues. The males are always either necking or having little fights. So the top of their ossicons, they're bold and they're flat. But to me, majority of these ones, I could be wrong, but they all look like to be girls. Now, what are these ones here up to? That's when they go for each other, that's how they swing their necks. And are you males staying at the back there and not joining the rest of the group? Sniffing something in the air. What could you be sniffing? Karen, thank you very much. You're doing your maths in a different way, and wherever you are, Karen, I'm sending you a high five from Kenya, and thank you for making me think differently, and that's how you have spiced my day. 96 legs, very well done. I have now a different way of doing arithmetics of my giraffes. I've always counted the wildebeest when I see so many of them and multiplied the number by 2 because of counting the number of horns, but I think it's more appealing, it sounds more colorful when you multiply the number of giraffes I got here by their 4 legs each. Karen, thank you very much. I don't know what else you could use to count them, but of course the legs nothing would outnumber the legs, because counting the ears, that will be 2. Counting the eyes, it will be 2. The oscons, wow, I think counting the legs, wonderful. I'll know next time what I'll do if I get this hard again. And when we see them walking together like that, we have always said a group of giraffe, a herd of giraffe is good, but when you see them walking together like that, we like saying a journey of giraffes. A journey of giraffes. And again, as I said, these are the Maasai giraffe. We got the Maasai giraffes in Kenya. We have another race that is called the Rothschild, and we have another race that is called the Letigrade giraffes, that you'll get them north of the country, north of the equator. And this is wonderful, wonderful. And I'm sure Sydney is doing something, and he should know that I've got the largest number of giraffes. I don't know what's the largest group or the largest number of giraffes Sydney has seen. I'll be happy to hear that as we go across to him on his tracking.
So now is the time for me to keep the promise. I found the sickle bush. This is the plant I indicated is my favorite plant. I'm so connected with the sickle bush. You can see I'm so connected with this beautiful sickle bush tree. Look at, let me just smell the flowers as well. So this is, yeah, the flowers has got a very nice and sweet, it's a placentic smell. The sickle bush is one of those trees I told you has got quite a lot of medicinal uses. And this is the one I was using when I was naughty. This is what I was doing. Because this one has got quite a lot of flowers to support, I don't want to do it here. I'll move. There's another small one which doesn't have the flowers. I don't want to provoke the growth hormones instead of supporting the food to the flowers to go and repair the damage. Let me show you from this one here, because I can see this is a small one, doesn't even have the flowers. This one has got the flowers next to me. So this is what I was doing. Maybe some of you have seen this before. We come and then I open like this. After opening, I must have to come and do like, I must pour the saliva there and say, please, I want the parents to forget everything I have done this morning. When I go back home later, nobody must ask me. And then I must have to close this like this and stick it together and leave it. So if you go and check, most of the sickle bushes there in Venda that are old, associated with my time, you will see they've got quite a lot of they've got quite a lot of cuts on them, and they've got a lot of openings showing that we were using them in order to do this. Sometimes you come and find that a tree like this has got already a lot of openings on it, and then you can't find a space. Now it means you must go and look for another one. Yeah, no, it is, you know, we used to go and do quite a lot of, like, they used to discourage us to go and swim because there were crocodiles in the village by the rivers. But as kids, you know, we'll go there. And coming back, we are going to forget that they will see, because when they look at the eyes are going to turn red, and the skin is going to also become very much dry. And they are going to see that when we come back, this is what we are going to do sometimes. It worked a lot. I can promise you, I won quite a lot of things because of this. Because of that, when coming back home, nobody was asking me, why did you go to... Because sometimes we used to do this. When coming back, if you are from the river, because we were swimming with crocodiles and everything there, then when coming back, we are going to use the saliva, because we were going to be very much dry here. We'll use the saliva, but still, when we got home, the dogs are going to inform them. When we put the salivas, when we come, the dogs, they come there and they sniff at us, and they are going to inform these elders that we are coming from there, because the dogs are going to smell all these salivas. So now let's quickly cross over to Hukumuri and see how Tristan is doing.
Well, he's taking it easy, chilling in his shady spot, but I don't think he's going to be here for much longer. The sun's going to creep around and he might move a little bit. We know Hikikomori gets itchy feet and doesn't really spend all day sleeping in one place, so I wouldn't be surprised if he moves a little bit. I'm hoping he doesn't go far, because I really would like to catch up with him for a long period this afternoon and spend some quality time with him. That's the idea anyway. Whether or not that's going to play out, I'm not quite sure. It's been, like I say, a while since we've seen him, and while he's not looking exactly thin, I think he could do with a meal, and so it might be a good cat to follow this afternoon. Lots of baby warthogs around, which means that potentially he might go looking and try and see if he can find. We know he loves a warthog, and he was actually on a kill not yesterday, the day before, but I'm not sure what it was. He was on a kill near Elephant Plains camp that he finished up yesterday morning and then moved around. So he's not exactly going to be hungry, but hopefully he'll kind of look for something. Tingana, on the other hand, is also going to be fairly kind of busy about his day. I would imagine he's going to be a lot hungrier than what Hikikomori is at this stage. But how cool is it to see him again? The crazy thing is that this morning we've seen as much as we have. I mean, we've seen crazy amounts of animals this morning. We've kind of just bumped into cats everywhere, and obviously the dogs. And we've even turned down going to go and see Thandi and Tlalamba, because they're still on their kill. Apparently there's very little left of the carcass, but they're still there. So theoretically, we could have had 4 different leopards this morning, as well as mating lions, as well as wild dogs, which is pretty insane when you think about it. Sydney, it's a question we get a lot, and a tricky one to answer, in that leopards are opportunistic and are animals that will take any chance they can get to get food. And so how often do they eat? It's variable. It depends on the cat, depends on the amount of hunting, depends on the amount of prey, depends on opportunities. But on average, it would be every sort of 3 days that they're going to get a substantial meal. In between that, they'll eat smaller things. You'll find that leopards are very, very versatile in terms of going after various prey animals, and they'll go after things like termites. So a lot of termites are hatching at the moment, so they'll lap those up if they are hungry. They'll kill little mice, birds, and then all the way up to the big animals. And so they'll sustain their diet with those smaller things while they are looking for other animals to go and try and kind of hunt and to get substantial carcasses. So, it depends. I mean, sometimes it can be every couple days, sometimes it can be every day, sometimes it can be a week until they eat again. So it just really depends on what they come across and how things go. You typically find, though, leopards in their prime, so leopards between sort of 4 and 10, they typically eat quite a lot, and they're quite constant in their feeding, and they typically are in the prime of their life, and so the ability to catch food is much easier than when they are very young or when they are very old. So things get a little bit more tricky when they get older, as their body starts to break down a bit and they get a little bit slower, and the same then applies when they are very young and as cubs they haven't quite learned the techniques yet. So that prime time, then that's when they'll eat a lot, and there's certain individuals that just thrive a lot more than others. So Salahesh and Karula are probably 2 very good examples of leopardesses that just constantly were on food. They were incredible hunters, both of them. I remember Salahesh having multiple kills every single day. So she's especially now in the lambing season, she often used to have 3-4 lambs at once. So it just depends on the cat. Some are better than others. And we know Hosana is typically quite fat most of the time, so he seems to not struggle too much. But yeah, it depends, and like I say, it's very difficult to give an exact time frame as to when they eat and how often they actually will feed. It's all very kind of variable. And he's doing a bit of grooming, which is either one of 2 things. He's either going to get up and move, or he's going to pass out soon and spend the day resting here. But there's a bit of yawning, and you can see he's kind of getting his coat kind of ready, and like I say, this can be a sign of one of 2 things. It's either he's done for the day and he's now going to groom off all of the fur and things that have been moved and manipulated through his walking, or he's going, and parasites that he's gained, or he's going to do this because it's now prepping himself to get up and move again, just making sure he's in good conditions. Leopards are quite typical in that they groom a lot prior to walking and post walking, so it's tricky to know which one this is going to be. He's been quite alert for a while, but I'm hoping that this is just the groom before he really kind of goes too fast asleep and decides to spend a day just resting in this area. Must be nice to have that long tongue, though. be much easier to groom. Isms, so there's no such thing as lion territory. So lions are mobile throughout this area, same as leopards. They all move around each other all the time. It's part and parcel of life here, and there's going to be different lions that are going to overlap, and so he'll try and avoid lions wherever they may be, but he's not avoiding lion territory. If that were the case, he would have nowhere to live. So leopards generally, they hear lions and they'll typically not really move too close to that sound. They'll try and move around it or fringe it. I mean, I have seen some leopards that are not perturbed by lion roars at all, and they'll sit in their place unless the lion roars get very, very close, and then they'll get up and kind of move away. But they will try and avoid lion activity. I mean, it's like I said, it's dangerous for them. They can easily be killed by lions, and so they'll try and keep lions kind of at arm's length, so to speak, as much as possible, and just try and kind of stay away from them, but they don't stay out of their territories. No, unfortunately, there's just leopard territories lie within lion territories, and they all overlap with each other, and they've got to constantly kind of move and check things out. Oh, he's kind of staring at this mound. I wonder if there isn't a warthog in this mound. There's often warthogs that feed around this mound, so I wonder if maybe there isn't one that's went in here that he's now going to patiently wait for. There you can see the mound on the left, and I've seen Hosana, Shongile, Karula, Shadow, Shadow's cub, all chasing warthogs around this mound before, so they've all kind of had a go at warthogs in this particular area, and I wouldn't be surprised if he also, and I think even Tingana's hunted warthogs in this section too, so I wouldn't be surprised there's a warthog here. There's a little mud wallow that's very, very close by to where we are, and so the warthogs like to come and wallow there, and then this termite mound is just, I suppose, a good safety point in the evenings after a wallow to go in and kind of rest. And so I wonder if maybe that's why he's lying here, is because this mound might house a potential prey item for him. You can see he's quite twitchy though when vehicles move around, so he's still kind of his usual Hukamuri self, even though he's been around and probably seen so many times now. He's not unrelaxed, but he's a little bit twitchy when the vehicles all start to move quite a bit, so as kind of vehicles are in and out of the sighting, so he's kind of watching what's going on. I think he's also kind of in some ways nervy of if there's other predators around. Remember that this is on a fringe of his territory these days. Now he's going to go and sit in a place that's going to be very difficult for me, but yes, you see he's going over the top of the mound. I wonder if there's not a warthog on the other side of this mound that he's busy trying to stalk. What have you seen, Hukamuri? We know how he loves to kind of use mounds to be able to hunt and to find food, so I'm intrigued as to what is inside there. I don't see a hole from the side either, but he's very ginger about his feet. Look at how his feet are moving. I don't see any prey animal though. No, there's no prey animal that I can see, unless, like I say, behind the mound where we can't see is a warthog. But the way he's moving is very gently, very slowly, as if there is something that he is busy watching, and he's going to curl his tail up and sit like they do when they're hunting warthogs. I wonder if there's not a warthog in this mound that he's now going to just sit and be patient and wait. See, look, he's getting into kind of comfy zone, and I reckon the whole of this mound is on the other side. Jamie, you say amazing to see how quickly he gets into it. It is incredible how quickly they kind of go from fairly sleepy to actually sort of getting themselves into a good position. I'm going to just move for David because he's at such an angle. He's almost sitting on my back trying to film this because it's kind of behind us at the moment. You can see there's the aerial that he's bent down, so that's the back of the car. Of course, there will be somebody that will drive right in front of where we are trying to film. There's the least I say, the better. So we'll just try and reposition ourselves slightly here so that we don't have a car now directly in line of us. But that's definitely what he's doing, is he's hunting warthogs for sure. He's right, there's the, I can actually see the hole for where he's looking. is just on the right-hand side there, so that's where the hole is. Anyway, we'll sit with him a little bit longer. We'll see whether or not he's actually going to potentially try and go into that hole. In the meantime, though, back up to David to see what he's been up to the last little bit.
You're going to reposition, Tristan, and get something interesting. Now, I was here a couple of days ago, and if you remember in the morning, I was saying I was going to the Sausage Republic to find out if Kinky Tail has dropped her new young ones, as much as I did not see her and the other female in that pride. And it's around here where we think there's two girls, two females of the Uluru pride that could have given birth, because I saw them here a couple of days ago, and either they have not come out or they might have shifted to another area. So I guess the cubs they got here are about 5 days old. 5 days ago, that's exactly where I saw her, and that was yesterday morning. I came back in the afternoon and she was not there, and these I think are two sisters of this very famous pride that lives pretty close to where we are in the camp. I was just hoping that they may be coming out from those thickets of the orange-leafed croton, and not really. And that doesn't mean they will not come out later in the day or this afternoon, but I got a feeling they're somewhere here, because it's a nice den area and they could easily stay warm right there. Yes, that's exactly the area. I think either she is nursing them or both of them are nursing their cubs, and maybe later on they're going to come out. And there's a puddle of water not very far from here where I would guess they would come and go and have a drink. I was lucky to see a few cubs for a few seconds, I'll bet not for long, and I was not live, so I just want to leave this area and hopefully we come back later. Something may happen, or I might get a friend of mine who will pass me some info. I was talking to one of the warden who told me he'd be very excited to come and see those cubs, and I told him if he sees them he can let me know, and I can immediately maybe come and we can have a live broadcast there. Thank you very much, and hopefully all will go well. I'm sure Tristan now have repositioned himself, and we can continue enjoying that view of that great male Hukumuri.
Indeed, we have repositioned ourselves, and he's giving us the evil eye. Hello, Hukumuri. What are you looking at? Now, I think he wants to hunt warthogs, which are down below him in this burrow, but it's too hot in the sun. So I think he's going to have to try and refigure this out a little bit. But the price for food is unfortunately a little bit of suffering at some points. And so he's kind of just sitting on top of the mound, and he's positioned himself really well, because if a warthog tried to come out, it's got zero chance of really going anywhere without him being on top of it very quickly. So the kind of hole is just off to the right-hand side there, and he's sort of just watching over. Now, I don't know if it's a case of like what Tingana had the other day, where he's kind of going to sit and hope that there's some in here, or that he actually saw them going in, and that's why he's being patient. The fact that he's also not climbed in there and gone to go and investigate would tend to suggest that he's a bit wary of what's inside there. So it'll be interesting to see what he gets up to, and whether or not he actually kind of spends a lot of time there, or if he's going to try and find himself some shade. I have a funny feeling he's hot and he's going to try and walk down and just find a bit of shade, and then just sit and watch this particular hole for the next little bit. And if they hears any movement, then to quickly go back up towards where he is now. So that's probably what he's doing, is every time he hears a bit of movement up there, gets hot, comes in the shade, and then goes back again, like what we saw just now. But quite nice to have had both our male leopards on a termite mound. I know we didn't get to see much of it with you guys earlier with Tingana, but we had him also sitting on a termite mound with the big blue sky behind him. So it's been a wonderful morning, really. I don't think I could have asked for a better morning this morning. When we woke up, I was thinking, what was I going to do this morning? I thought we'll just bumble around and go and check up on the dogs and maybe Tundi and Kalamba, and then maybe we'll get lucky with one of them. Little did I know we'd get as spoilt as we have been through the course of this morning. It's been quite ridiculous, actually, in many respects, to be able to have seen as much as we have. And it bodes well. We have a rehearsal this afternoon, so at least there's lots of animals around for that, which will be good. Kelsex, he might have. It's tricky though. There's a lot of wind that's just kicked up, and so there's quite a lot of rustling of leaves and trees at the moment. But their hearing is quite sophisticated and much like a sort of satellite. It kind of points in the direction that they want to hear, and so the ear will move in that regard and will be able to find what he's looking for. So he might have heard something. He doesn't look as though he's in a posture right now where something's about to come out. In fact, he's almost looking like he's getting quite sleepy and his eyes closing in some respects. So, I don't know if he heard something inside there. It's tricky. I sometimes wish we had leopard hearing so we could hear what they hear half the time, but unfortunately we don't, and therefore, it's a little bit tricky to know actually what he hears. Certainly he is intrigued by that entrance there, so I'd imagine there is something around. Oh, and it would have been a good question to have asked Taylor when she was still here, and essentially leopards can wait quite long. In the case of Mvula, the male leopard who is no longer with us, he once sat at a termite mound for almost 2 days. So it was a whole day, a night, and then the following day, and then eventually the warthog came running out and he missed the warthog. So he waited very patiently for a long period and got nothing. So it depends on the leopard, but at that stage he was very hungry, he was getting older, and so he was more patient. Hukamuri, I don't think would have done the same. Yes, indeed, Luke, it would have made an incredible unscheduled broadcast to have kind of kept that going for 2 days. It would have been quite something, but no, so, he was a bit more frail and a little bit, maybe not frail, he would have been a little bit more kind of, tired in about going hunting, and he's slower, and so it was easier for him to sit and conserve energy and wait in the case that he might have got that warthog than it was to actively patrol and look. And because he wasn't a territorial male, it didn't matter that he wasn't patrolling. Somebody like Hukamuri, I don't think is going to really kind of have that same patience. While he might wait for most of the day and spend the day here, I don't think he's going to get to a point where he's going to spend, 2 days all the way through the night. I think eventually he'll get bored of it. Also, hopefully the warthog either runs out and he misses, or he grabs a meal at some point. You can see he's kind of settled down now, so he's not really in a posture where he's about to pounce, and the tail is a very good indication of whether or not he's kind of intrigued in something and is imminent sort of threat or food item. So you can see, look at how relaxed that tail is. It's down, the tip is not twitching at all. If he had heard something and he was very interested, the tip would just be twitching ever so slightly, and it's not. So, he's in quite a relaxed posture at the moment, and is more just listening out than he is actually trying to go after something at the moment. But he must have heard or kind of seen or some sort of evidence of something inside there. We know he's a patient cat, and this is a technique that he uses regularly in order to hunt warthogs. And so who knows, maybe it'll be good for him and he'll get one during the course of the day, or hopefully he'll be patient enough to wait here until this afternoon, and then we'll be able to kind of see him still sitting, hopefully, in this particular area. At least something to keep him here for a while. But definitely watching, that's for sure. What are you hearing, boy? I'm not sure if there's really much going on in terms of actual kind of movement down below there. He seems like he's kind of interested, but at the same time I think he's quite uncomfortable where he's chosen to sit, and so he can't really get himself into a nice kind of relaxed position in the wait game that he's going to have to play with these guys. Wouldn't be surprised, like I say, he comes down to where there's a bit of shade instead. Right, he's going to still sit there. We'll sit with him while he sits and then see whether or not anything happens in the last little bit. But in the meantime, back up to David, who's got some big pachyderms to show all of us.
Well, if it's very hot, yeah, that's very possible. In general, cats will not hunt when it's very hot because they can't keep the pace. Because when they run, their body temperatures seem to go up very quickly, and that doesn't end up with a lot of success. Well, we have gone ourselves a little higher vantage area to have a great view of the Mara Triangle from a vantage point, and just watch, the ellies going through the savannah eating the grass that is pretty lush, and the torchwood trees there, which are always very iconic of the Mara Triangle. But while doing that, we found ourselves something interesting here, and we found 2 members of the Olololo Pride. And these are the girls I was looking at a few minutes ago in those thickets, and not realize they were not there. They're lying flat and hiding in the grass here, and almost impossible to see, but that's one of them there. And what I think they want to do, they're trying to lay some ambush to hunt something. What I want to do, there's another one there, the 2 of them, the one we saw there, and I'm not sure you can see anything. Charlotte, you see, it's such a beautiful picture, and Charlotte, you'll never go wrong when you come to Africa. In everything that we'll show you here, our wilderness, be it trees, be it bushes, be it grass, be it wildlife, it's always amazing. And I'm sure you take lots of screen pictures for yourself. I mean, having the elephant in the background is like a painting, but when you see them move, you're like, oh, 1 minute, David, this is real, and it's pretty exciting. Now, these 2 girls that I was talking about, that are members of the Olololo Pride, they're just here basically because they got cubs, and if the other members don't get them food, they need to get food for themselves. So I just saw them by sheer luck, flicking their tail. Otherwise, I drove past here, didn't see them, went to the den where I thought they are, didn't see anything, and you had me saying I'll come back later, and coming back trucking the same way, I saw a flick of a tail from the grass. I'm like, there they are. But basically, they also need to eat to be able to have milk for the cubs. Well, we want to give them space because I don't know what they could be hunting. I want to move forward a little bit just to make sure we see the head. And once we see the head and they're lying so flat in the grass there, maybe Archie can just allow us just to see one of those girls there. And then we're going to let her enjoy her timing and her waiting. And that's one of the females of those 2 that have those 4 cubs in that den. See how flat she is. Who would imagine? Yes, who would imagine there could be a lioness there? And I'm happy you recon with me that they're so camouflaged. And again, as I said, I drove 5 meters away from that lioness and I never saw her. I went to the den. Okay, at least now this one got her head up. That way you can see her. But if she looked like the other one, I would say it's practically impossible to see them. They blend in very well. They camouflage in. You need more than eagle eyes to spot them. Now these are 2 members of the Olololo Pride. And Sandy, you say you're looking at the grass. I mean, you're not alone. I mean, many other viewers thought, what are you showing us, David? You're showing us grass and you're talking of lions. What's wrong with you this year? And surely, Sandy, I agree with you. We thought, or everybody thought we're looking at sun, until now the second one has put her head up. It was almost impossible. As I said, I drove 5 meters away. That's beautiful, Yon. 5 meters away from them, and I didn't see them. And I went to their den where they got their cubs. And on coming back, the same track, I'm like, something is moving in the grass. And now look at them now, Sandy. Who would see a lioness in that grass? You could easily come and have a wee there, and the lioness is like not here because she is flat and like 180 degrees there. Nobody, even myself, on a walk, I could easily stumble on that lioness. So for those of you who are joining us now, these 2 members belong to the Olololo Pride, and we're just very lucky to see them in that particular grass. Not sure what they want to do, but again, as I said, chances are they'd be laying ambush to hunt because the other members of this pride are quite a distance from here, and I doubt they would want to venture to go that far to join them for food. Hello girls, I just hope and wish you get something for yourself to have enough milk for your cubs, because we want those cubs out, and I'm sure we'll be full of joy to see them out playing. Now the group or the pride consists of 16 members and has split in 3 groups. Yvette, you said that grass looks comfortable, and definitely she is very comfortable where she is, and that's why she has disappeared in the grass just to bend and just to have maybe some nice nap there. I mean, Yvette, there you'll walk and you usually just walk on a lioness, and the next thing is, where did the lioness come from? Beautiful Ellis in the background there, and they're about 150 meters apart from this lioness is here. I'm not sure either of the species know that the other one is here, and you can see as it's warming up now, a bit of shimmering on your screen. The Ellis also doing more flapping of their ears because it's warm. I think it's been a great day this morning, having missed the sausages, but I have found 2 girls of the Olololo. Great stuff. Lots of elephants from the Mara Triangle. And on behalf of myself and Archie from the Mara, we'll be sending you back to Ukumuri in South Africa, and hopefully we'll be joining you again this afternoon. Bye-bye for now.
Indeed we will, David. We will see you this afternoon quite, sharply at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Or was it 5 o'clock Kenya time? Yes, that's what time we will see David once again. 5 o'clock his time and 4 o'clock our time. And hopefully he will have a good afternoon like the morning that we've had. I mean, it has been an incredible morning, like he said. It's been quite ridiculous. TT, I haven't seen Hosanna in quite a while, so I mean the last time I saw Hosanna was in November, beginning of November, and I believe he's bulked up a little bit. So is Hukumuri bigger than Hosanna? Not sure. I mean, always these kind of questions are always tricky. Until you see them side by side, it's very difficult to make a size assumption. But I will say one thing is I find Hosanna has got quite a bulky build and stocky build, which Hukumuri does have in his front sort of section, but I find Hosanna's bigger around the kind of hips and sort of back leg area. But I mean, I haven't. If I see Hosanna again, it will be interesting to see. I think he's starting to catch Hukumuri in terms of size, and so I'm hoping that he will be bigger. And the thing is, if he can get to the same size, then it's going to go a long way to helping to kind of protect himself in this particular section and make sure that Hukumuri doesn't kind of run him off, which is what we obviously want. And we're hoping that that's going to be the case, because obviously we want Hosanna to stay for as long as possible and to be here for the foreseeable future. Good. Anyway, it's that time of the day, unfortunately, where we need to say goodbye to all of you. Hopefully you've enjoyed a rather action-packed morning. There's been lots and lots going on, so from all of us it's been an absolute pleasure. Hope to see you guys all this afternoon for the Sunset Safari. We'll see you all later.